particular set of birth skills.
Hey
Karate.
everyone, Real Fish Tack numeral 19 with the Guppy extravaganza.
Coming at you live.
That's right, from Studio 3BC.
3 BC.
Yes. All right, we're going to talk about some guppies, and I didn't think we could fit it all in 1 hour. So I decided it's longer than what we normally do. Lights behind Joel aren't on at the moment because that's how I roll with that thing. I think it's set to turn on in like 10 minutes. So for now, he is very overexposed.
I'm half ghost, half man.
Ghost. Yeah. So I think that's the first time I've seen that hashtag. Hashtag Real Fish Talk.
Hashtag Real Fish Talk.
Huh.
That's a good.
I think that's the first. I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it yet? Huh?
Have you seen a hashtag Real Fish Talk?
I can't think of a specific. No.
All right.
I haven't think of a specific, no.
That could be Inception right there. That could be the first one. Don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
we caught it on film, so to speak. But, so it's, well, I should say it's no secret, but my favorite fish is guppies. Even though I made a live stream the other week about how I got rid of almost all of my guppies.
Right. Rehomed. Didn't get rid of them.
Yeah.
They've been rehomed to other responsible Western Washington aquarists.
I like to think so.
Yeah.
You know, it's like taking your dog to a farm. Yeah.
Well, yeah, if you actually take your dog to a farm, right?
If you actually.
They weren't euthanized or anything. Yeah.
No.
They're going to be
They just went to live with Oscars.
loved and cared for. Right?
But I did keep, so I kept my German Berlin Buttercup guppies, which are, I'm just going to start saying, more of an heirloom strain.
Mhm.
It was really hard for me to find, and they're not out there nearly as much as I would have thought. And they're not nearly as flashy as some of the new ones, so I'm starting that trend as, I'm putting that now in the heirloom strain, which I know I'm enraging guppy enthusiasts out there, but
Right.
that's my own. In my brain, I'm filing under that card catalog. That's how I do things in my brain. Card catalog.
You just catalog them in there. You throw them in the. You
Little
have like
note card
a.
that's kind of beat up.
You have like one of those Filofax things where you like stick everything in there. Yeah.
Bentley Pasco got my koi guppies. Those went. That one hurt. I still didn't get any babies out of those. That one hurt for real. I kept the best guppies in the world. Did I keep any others? Was it only 2?
Bentley got some of yours.
Yeah, Bentley got the koi guppies that I had.
Oh.
So I'm excited to see. Hopefully Bentley.
I would have loved to rehome them myself, but
Yeah.
as
I
we
offered you a
were,
bunch.
you and I were talking about it yesterday. I signed myself up for a challenge that is like virtually impossible.
I'm wicked happy to see it play out one way or the other. Like either A, the female just dies of old age, or B, you actually do the thing I've been pining after for the last 10 years, and that is start with 2 guppies
They are not old
and
enough.
breed into... Oh, they're still too young?
No, they're not old enough to die of old age.
Yeah, okay.
Like this is probably the first breeding that the first spawn that
So they
she's
were
gonna
real
do.
young then. They were like almost fry when you got them?
They were like maybe, I guess maybe if you call them like maybe teenagers. I remember like spry little
Like
teenagers.
tweens?
They're tweens. Yeah,
Okay.
tweeners. Yeah.
Tweeners. Well, that'd be exciting then, kind of. Like, what I'm terrified is that your male is like just a fry consumer.
He doesn't seem to be that. He doesn't seem.
How would you know? What if he's like, oh man, those taste amazing?
Well, he might.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but luckily there's only one male in there.
What's the tank?
I mean, I
setup
guess worst. Well, I guess not worst case scenario, but I guess like I could put him somewhere else. I could just put him in the sump for
How
a couple
dare you.
weeks. Well, he'd be in the same tank. He'd just be down in the sump, like,
What size is the tank?
hey, buddy, it's a 150.
I think putting the male down in the sump is probably sending the babies to their death. Because I just envisioned the babies going over the overflow, and they were like, "Oh, we were about to be safe. No, now he's down here to eat us."
There's 4 screens in the way for them to get down into the sump.
I believe challenge has been accepted.
The shrimp can make it, but they're
I think
a little more. They have a little more
I
tenacity.
want you to mark today. We should just start a pool. That's for some reason. That's all I want to do now with Real Fish Talk is do game shows and betting.
game shows and
But
gambling.
we need to pick a day that Corvus finds a a fry in the sump. And
fry
then winner
in the
gets
sump.
winner gets a large French fry from McDonald's.
Well, like the Killy fry in the 240, they're unobstructed from heading down to the sump.
Yeah.
They just, hey man, if you feel like going for a wild
Like a subway ride, yeah.
you know, they're unobstructed. But the 150, there'd be a lot of, they'd have to be really motivated to get down there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So
But we
yeah,
can
I'm
do that.
excited to see. I'm excited to see because it's one of those things that, like, you're gonna get like 12 probably from that first batch, and then that'll be another waiting of like, oh god, it's another like 4 months, and then you'll be like, okay, so we went 1, 12, then we had 29, then we had 42, now we have 709. Like, it's gonna be one of those things that grows exponential out of control, and that's what I love to watch. And I've only ever seen reports on it, like on Guppies.com, which, by the way, is the biggest travesty I've seen happen in a long time.
What, Guppies.com?
Yeah, I used to be like a very active member there, and the person that owns it, I've talked to him like through Skype calls and stuff, and he's much busier in like other avenues of business. Like, I don't remember what it was, like if it's real estate or whatever he does, like,
Okay.
but he's busy. And he has no desire to give up Guppies.com, like, at all. Like, I tried to buy it. I was like, dude, I will revitalize this thing. Like, I love Guppies a lot. Like, clearly you did too, because you own Guppies.com, whatever. But it still sits in the same incarnation, which is like broken main website, forum where no new moderators can be appointed.
Oh.
So there's like 2, right? Because they're like back from old school, but like there's not many people that were a moderator like 12 years ago and today are like, no, I live to get up and moderate more.
Right.
You know, so
Moderate
like they're
some
doing
more.
it out of like they check in every maybe once a week out of like, oh god, we already know there's like no more moderators, so we got to do something.
Right.
But now we're lucky to see like 1 post per week, where it used to be like, oh yeah, 500 posts a day, you know, because it was like, it's Guppies.com, like it dominates search engine,
Right.
like, and everyone was posting a bunch of cool projects they were doing, and I loved hanging out there, and now it's just like dead,
Dead air.
you know,
Yeah.
and I don't want to say the guy's name or anything like that, but if you have any kind of influence over Guppies.com, I can say this. If it somehow makes it to my hands, I will make sure that it becomes thriving again. As much of a chance as it's got. Like, it's now lived through the Facebook days, and now we're in YouTube days. Like, I don't think it's ever going back to 500 posts a day, but it might go back to 20 or 30 a day. Like, it might at least
Yeah.
revitalize some.
Yeah, it's
But,
possible.
You know, it just, I don't know. Super sad to see it just like, yep, it's gone. It's done. We're
Right.
good. Like, that hurts. Because there's still a bunch of cool pictures. Like, you got to, and it's super clunky. Like, this forum software is super old, right? So if you go there, you're like, there's no posts. No, you got to set, like, let's see all posts from the last 5 years.
Right.
You know, because it auto, like, trims the last, like, 90 days or 30
Anything
days.
from 90, yeah.
Yeah, so it
anything
just
from
looks like it's a
over-
ghost town. But there are some really cool threads of people like playing with how low of temperature can these guppies or endlers go? Here's my mutations. Here's all the genes that I've been working with, and I found out, oh, this plus this has this recessive gene. Like, there's a lot of really cool and hard to find like data
Yeah.
on that forum, but it's really kind of hidden now.
Yeah, because everything's just all
Yeah.
kind of out of whack.
And, you know, it's one of those things like there might be someone out there like, you know, like let's say me, let's just take me. So it's like, it's me, but I hate guppies. So it's like, you know, what do they call that? Bizarro World Cory. And he just owns a
Right.
business. He's like, well, Guppies.com, if I just turn that into a e-commerce site, will make me a lot of money. Where I actually just want to preserve the Guppies.com as being guppies. Like, not just like,
Right.
oh yeah, we sold the chlorinator. You should buy it. You typed in Guppies.com. Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm super disappointed about that. 'cause-
Yeah, that's not the greatest thing to hear, but it does happen from time to time. It's weird that it's still up though.
Yeah, because the guy still pays for it, and
Right.
that's what kills me. Is like, I mean, I really tried. Like, I was like, is it money? Do you need to still own it? But then I just like fix it. Like, what needs to happen? And after like an hour plus conversation, it was like, well, I'm gonna need some time to reflect on this. and then it just didn't go anywhere. Even though I'd like message him again and be like, so it's been like a month that we done some more thinkings. And the guy's like, I don't know how old the guy is, but he's like, I want to say like 65, 70. So it's one of those things too. They're like,
he's got all the
I'm
time
gonna
in the world.
find out like at some point, like, oh, he's no longer alive. No one even knows the password now. It's gone forever.
Yeah, that's not cool.
So, and that's the thing is like you might, well, then you can buy guppies.com, but then you'll actually lose the forum. That's the worst part of it. Then, because like if you have just guppies.com, you don't have the information. You know, not good anymore.
Yeah, all that good content will be lost.
Yeah,
from all the people.
I've seen that happen before. Where
from the people's contributing, right?
Yeah, because you can't make new mods.
Yeah, that's sort of along the lines of the conversation we were having a while ago, which was like, you know, somebody was asking like, why are you guys so enthusiastic about building a community, right? And we're like, that's a perfect example. Like the Guppies.com thing is that you had all those projects, all that stuff.
Oh, there goes the madness.
Whoa!
Auto
feeding chaos.
Yeah.
Live on the internet.
The daily
feeding. But that was one of the big things that we were talking about a little while ago, which was like, why are you and I and Jiminy James over there? We'll include him too. There might be one or two other people in the world also, but one of the things people are asking, like, why are you and I so motivated to build a community? And that Guppies.com, as you mentioned, it's like you had a bunch of people posting with like the experiments that they were doing, like the breeding projects that they were doing and stuff like that. You know, it would be one thing that if you and I were to go, all right, let's go set up 1,200 tanks in a room, and then we'll just start doing some experiments, and then we'll just tell you guys about it, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas you go, if you had 1,200 people individually kind of doing projects and stuff like that, we could get like a breeding result from Florida, from the UK, from Canada, from Australia, and we could actually start assembling a lot of that information, you know, as a group, as a large group of people, that would be, you know, it's not like it would be out of our wheelhouse to go like, let's go get 1,200 aquariums and we'll set them up. You know?
It could be done.
It could be done. We could do it.
You still lose all the other aspects of like the fact that you'd figure out like, oh wait, only Great Britain has this guppy left? Well, let's make sure it gets to the USA and it gets to Ireland and we spread it around. Like a lot of that stuff was going on. Like you could search out. How did you do that?
I don't know.
You broke it, man.
It's just a guy with so much head power.
Yeah. But you could get stuff around and you could search stuff. A lot of people go there and be like, hey, has anyone seen the 1982 Stan Schubel purple Moscow around? And then people would be like, half people would be like, what's that? Myself included. And then the other people are like, oh man, it was this great one. It won this competition in this year. And I think this crusty old guy still got it. I'm going to go over to his house.
Yeah, you're like,
in 6 months.
I found a picture from 1994. Like, this is what it looked like.
Yeah. And then people on there had been around so long, they'd be like, oh yeah, I know who might still be keeping that and all that kind of stuff. And that stuff, no matter at what facility we build, we could never replicate that.
That's right. And it's like, you know, well, that's one of those things that was kind of my point was like, we could source a whole bunch of tanks and then we do this big project and but then it's still just us going like, yeah, well, they did pretty good over here and then they did okay over there, but not so good over here, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, but we need like 1,200 people's help to come here and like check out each aquarium and see what's going on. And we're like, wait, we're still missing an element here. And also, like you said, it's like if we're going to crowdsource some of the strains that are out there, the things that are going on, it's like it would be virtually impossible for us two to like, what's happening in Japan right now? I don't know. You know? So
I mean, I if I remember correctly, and you know, don't take me at like, oh man, put this on Wikipedia, but they were really hashing out like N-class Endlers and all that kind of stuff on that site because they determined like, oh man, this is kind of starting to become a problem. We should start working on this. And then I think Adrian HD kind of took it over. He's kind of a guy that does guppies on Aquabid or Endlers on Aquabid, and he really made it his own thing. But a lot of that stuff, I guess conservation efforts, if you will, kind of started there. Yeah, you got to watch out. Those archers will shoot you.
I know they're trying to.
They will.
shooting at me again.
And yeah, every time someone moves, like if Jimmy walks by, then the clownlet will stop feeding. So that's why there's food still floating.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just sit there and watch, it's just a feeding frenzy. But the minute they get spooked, you watch them all dart away, and then they come back. But
they'll get spooked.
Yeah,
they get eaten in the wild by people like Moriarty.
That's right, Moriarty. So Moriarty the Heron, Blue Heron, showed up. Was it yesterday or the day before? Must have been yesterday. You weren't here the day before. It was either Friday or yesterday.
Friday.
So Moriarty showed back up. Moriarty, he's been landing on my smaller fish ponds.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where you saw him?
Yeah, he was over there.
Okay, yeah. He knows that there's some snacking going on over there, some white clouds. And I just don't know how / I have a soft spot for Moriarty, even though he's my mortal enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you deserve to eat some of these fish. Like, I've taken your land.
Yeah, I mean,
I just don't want you to eat my koi.
I mean, he's still viable. You know what I mean? Like, he's it's like this is.
And I was like, oh,
this is his place also.
And so I'm like, I'm kind of okay with if I'm like making guppies and goodeids and white clouds and rice fish.
Mm-hmm.
If he snacks on some but doesn't eliminate the population, I actually think that's kind of a good thing.
It's kind
like
of
if I support the bird, and then he keeps my population down, and but if he just goes like wicked to town, like, check it out, bro, you're out of all your fish. And we're like, come on, man, now I gotta. You know what happened? So I was telling Joel this story yesterday. Is we hadn't seen Moriarty in like a year,
right?
And then the wind blew down my little disco ball, and Moriarty's back. He goes, I've been waiting for this day.
Waiting.
Yeah.
Waiting.
So I got to get a disco ball back up, but I kind of like having him because it's kind of weird. You just like walk out and you're like, that is a giant bird.
He's a big.
And every time
heron,
you open
the
door, he just whoosh. You can almost hear the sound of the wings.
Mm-hmm.
Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh.
He's pretty big for a heron. I'll tell you that. I've been around a lot of herons.
I've been feeding him well.
He's a pretty big one.
He's been eating a good diet.
Yeah. Whatever he's been doing, just keep doing that because it's working.
Yeah. He's been eating guppies left and right, I'm sure, because they're slow and derpy. What? Oh no! Because they all got big tails and that's one of the reasons though that like I'm actually a huge fan of either round-tail or spear-tailed guppies, something without big dumb tails. One, because it's like almost all guppies have big dumb tails now.
Right.
So I think that's what happened is we went from like smaller tails, and everyone's like, yeah, all of them have that, to a bigger tail with something different, and then so everyone lusted after that.
Right.
And then that dominated the market, and then now I am back the other way of like, oh man, I want those small ones because they're quick and nimble. And they don't really get bacterial infections and things like that. And so, like, I got some from Twin City Guppies. Shout out to Twin City Guppies. When I was at his fish room, he had some of, like, the spade tail. Mm-hmm. And he sent me some for free, which was super cool. I was more than willing to pay, but he just sent them out. Like, I got back, and they showed up, like, 4 days later. I was stoked.
Right.
And so, those are still in my fish room as well.
Oh, okay.
So, I kept those. I'm trying to think if there's any others. Oh, my Panda Guppies I kept.
Okay.
I still have those.
Right.
I do love those quite a bit. Maybe because they don't have the long tail.
They don't have the long tail. I have to admit, I am also pretty partial to the short tails, whether it's a shovel tail or
what's the reasoning?
Spear tail. I don't know what it is. I think it's just personal preference. Like I feel like the big giant fan tail hanging off of the gup. It just seems like they can't swim.
It is harder for them to swim, but it's
they're
beautiful.
Just like, I'm dragging this goofy thing around, and I'm like, I think if I was a guppy, I wouldn't want that big giant. I think that maybe that's what it is. It was like, if it was me, I'd be like, I don't know, I figure out how to trim this tail down a little bit so I can.
I've had that problem. I've gotten rid of strains that have that problem where the tail fin gets so big that if they're not actively swimming, they're laying on the ground.
Right. They just
and that. To me, that is like, okay, we've taken it way too far. Like,
right.
I don't know. Call me old-fashioned, but I like it if my fish can swim.
Yeah, that kind of fish would probably be Moriarty food real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is my way of culling, by the way. Like, if you're a true guppy person, you end up doing a lot of culling. Like, if you just let deformities run rampant, you end up with a pretty, like, oh, geez, I'm just kind of got a mutant factory going on here.
Right.
And so... For me, what I do is I usually put them in with my turtles. And people go, that's horrible. But I'll tell you what, the more messed up the guppy is, the longer it lives. I swear. Like somehow, I'll put one in. Like I had one that was like in the shape of a V. Like its back was horrible.
Right.
Like, oh my god, that thing lived out its entire life with an army of turtles. I don't know if the turtles were just like, respect, bro.
Like just
let's
just
or
leave
if he
him
was
alone.
adept at evading turtles.
Right.
Like maybe he could get into a weird shape of wood and like check it out.
Maybe they couldn't
I fit here and you don't.
Maybe they couldn't maybe the turtles couldn't like see him properly.
That's right. They thought he was two of them because he's like this.
I'm trying to eat this guppy, but I can't.
Maybe they were like trying to take a bite out of his back, but since it was dipped down, it just kept missing. Like it does every time. It sounds horrible, but you do have to have a way to get rid of guppies. And when you run, so I was running 20, when I counted when we were tearing them down, I was running 21 tanks of guppies.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were to like mix up a bucket of clove oil and stuff and euthanize one that way every time, that's kind of, I guess, labor intensive. And you might find like one in the morning and then you find one later in the day and then you don't find one for 3 days. And then, so it's easier for me. And I've got a soft spot somehow. I don't want to watch something actively die.
Right.
So like, okay, it's weird. So I could never, so far in my life, I could never go shoot a deer, right? Like I couldn't be the guy that's like, I'm going to kill it. I could pull the trigger, but the watching of it die would destroy me. Mm-hmm. But somehow I can watch, like, I could watch a jaguar eat a deer or something. Because I'd be like, well, that thing's got to eat. Like, that's, like, either the jaguar is going to die or that deer is going to die. And the same thing with, like, the turtle. I could feed it food, yes, but in, like, the wild, that turtle's just going to go, hey, I'm going to eat that guppy. And guppies are designed like, well, we overpopulate knowing that we're derpy and going to get eaten.
Right.
So
yeah,
that's how I live with it. But if I just had to be like, oh, let me just kill them, that's really hard on me. At all costs, I'm trying to think if I've even done that in, like, many years.
Oh, like mixed up.
Usually I've got, like, a big enough turtle
like
or
clove
something.
oil or something along those lines.
I'm trying to think if I've ever just... I'm trying to think of, like, the last
only
fish
time
I
I've
put
ever
down.
done that. The only time I've ever done that was, and I've never done that with guppies before. But
I'm trying to think of any fish I've ever.
The only time I've
down.
ever done that was just with a couple of different betas.
Yeah.
In my experience, it's like there were certain points where it was like this male is.
And
not
you probably, my guess, you just didn't have a fish or like a reptile big enough to end their life.
I didn't
in
have
a
anything to
manner.
feed them to at the time. Like now, it's really easy for me if I have something that needs to be culled because I just feed it to the chickens. Like I just net it out. I just net it. If there's something I got to get out, I just net it out and go put it in the chicken yard, and I'm like, it will be gone so fast I won't even have to deal with it.
One of my friends tells a hilarious story when he was a guppy breeder and a shrimp breeder, so they love shrimp and guppies.
Mm-hmm.
But for culls, his chickens went nuts, like running around. Like he tells, he's an animated guy, and it's one of those things where you're standing there like this should be like an HBO skit. Like my sides are hurting from you personifying a chicken.
Right.
Like it was. So that's why I'm not telling the story right now, because no matter what, if I do it 1/10 justice, it'll be horrible. Like,
I tell you,
it was an
it's
amazing
like,
story.
With my chickens, you're like for instance, I've learned the hard way that you have to cut everything up that you put in there.
Or they just take down a whole.
Because I took like a chunk of brisket.
Leg. Yeah.
I took a chunk of brisket that I had. That might have been like one person's portion.
Sure.
Right? But it's a big chunk. To a chicken, that's a big chunk. And they go crazy.
Like fighting over it or just like, oh, okay.
So one of them gets it, and then it's like Benny Hill. It's like, that's
pretty much what he was.
They run around, and then the other ones run around after it and peck at him and stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of chaos. Like, that's kind of pure chaos. So if, but one of the funny things with my chickens, like they even plant culls.
Yeah.
Like even if I have like, I got to pull out some of these plants.
You got chickens, I got turtles. Same thing.
I just throw them in the yard and boom, they're on them and it's gone.
Yeah, that's what I do with the turtle too. Like they love to chow stuff down. It's good for them. So.
No Anubias though. Anubias is.
I've never tried it.
Anubias is like supposedly it's too leafy. They'll just look at it like, I don't know, bud.
Yeah.
But they'll eat anything else green.
I tried the turtles because people.
But they won't eat like tomato plants. There's certain things like in certain plants that like it probably makes them like gassy or something.
I know hornwort's supposed to be not very tasty, like for fish. So I don't know.
Yeah.
When it comes to crossing guppies and endlers, I am a fan. Because I think, well, the reason I'm a fan is it typically like tones down a guppy, so like it tends to get a smaller tail. That being said, there's ones I like I like the Tiger Endler, which if you guys don't know that story, is kind of one of the problems why setting up 1,200 tanks for guppies is a liability, and that is, the way I hear the story, and I heard it on guppies.com, imagine that, is the gentleman had like, I believe he had endlers up above, like on a rack, and then down below he had tequila sunrise guppies.
Right.
And at some point, an endler hopped out of the tank and landed in a tequila sunrise tank. And then something faintly similar to what we know as a Tiger Endler today came out, and he goes, "Oh man, that's cool. I want to work with that."
Right.
And then, so that's when we get to the Tiger Endler. So I do like the Tiger Endlers. I like the Blue Endler. Now, I'm not convinced that Blue Star, Blue Silverado, Super Blue Endler, all those things are that much different. I feel like they're the same morph with slightly different goals. So, like, one guy's going, "I want more blue." The next guy's going, "No, I want it like with a little spot on it." And the next guy, so I think it's all the same fish and different. Take 3 different fish keepers. They all think each one is the best version, and then they just cull for that.
Right.
So I think you could take whatever strain you have, any direction you wanted to go. So I like those two. I'm not a big fan of like the Japanese blues.
Okay.
So they're mostly like wild guppy color, but then like the wicked blue tail. They were all the rage like 7 or 8 years ago. And I just was never on that train. Like everyone was like, you got to get them, man. They're so cool. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. And people still love them today.
Everybody was like, "You got to get them.
You got to get them.
You got to get them, boy."
Well, as like I worked at a store and then I owned a store, and they're like, "Why don't you have them?" And I'm like, "Because I don't like them."
Right.
Like, I mean, I'd always tell people like, "No, we'll order some up. We'll get them for you tomorrow. Like they'll be here." Well, no, I want you to have a selection of them and then me come in and then buy them. And I'm like, no, that's exactly the problem. No one's actually really buying these things. And what I witnessed, at least in my own club, it was because they were kind of hot. Everyone got them, bred them, and then was disappointed when they didn't make their millions. They're like, "What? No, everyone wanted them. Now I have them. No one's buying them. This is bogus." And I'm like, and that's just one of those false, like, I don't know if I want to call it like a market correction, but when the average public, so like if my grandma walked in and there was a row of 10 different guppies, there's no way she'd be like, "Yeah, that blue one was the best." It was just the thing that was the most different to guppy nerds. That's what it was, is that they were like, "Oh yeah, I haven't seen that before, so let's create artificial demand." What about it?
That's what my mail looks like.
Oh, show it to the screen. Zoom, enhance, up a little bit. Oh, there you go. That's the male, the stunner.
That's the one male. He sort of looks like a swordtail.
I think
a panda and a Tiger Endler all had some kind of
don't they call that
interaction,
like the AOC flame guppy?
I'm not 100%.
I used to be way better when I was on forums.
I think in about a month or something, he'll have his full form, and I'll have a good idea because he's gone through a couple of changes. He had a lot of blue early on, and I was like, oh, maybe he's like
could be a late bloomer. Those best guppies in the world, no joke, like 6-8 months of just looking black and drab.
Right.
And I'm going, oh no, they're not, no. And then they colored up, and I was, oh my God, they are. Like, that's no joke. That seems like, oh, he's exaggerating how excited. But no, when I saw they'd finally colored up, it was a big relief because the entire internet's waiting for me to crank those out. Meanwhile, I've got like 6 of them. And I got to put them in one of those bigger tanks. And I want to make them because they just look good. Like, that's just the female half moons. Like, that's where guppies are going that I'm really intrigued about, is that the females can be made like better than the males, in my opinion. Like the
You
good
think?
breeders really focus on the females, and then they start looking amazing. And because their fins don't get as long, I actually think they look better.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of a bigger guppy. So if you get like the male guppy, you're like, oh yeah, he's a wimp. He's only like 2 inches. Then you get like those females are like, dang, that thing's like 4 inches and like that big around. And that's something I should bring up. Like almost whenever I show guppies from my fish room, when I've got it like, well, even if I don't have it like cranking, people inevitably always go like, how'd you get them so big? And to me, I'm always like, no, I haven't. That was not even trying yet. Like, you want to see big, I can make really big. And for me, it's feed a variety of food like 1 million times a day. Because guppies are always kind of getting it on, and they're always up to something. And so it's like having a kid that like, he just loves to run around the yard all day long. Oh God, he's running around.
Right.
He's going to burn a lot of calories. So if you want to make a big fish, if you want to make a fat kid, feed him all the time, and that'll put some weight on. But if you're, if you just put food in once a day, you get pretty, I don't want to call them anemic, but pretty slender guppies, I think, when it's once a day, and that's it. That's all you get. So, for those of you that have super chatted us, we'll address some super chats at like the halfway mark. I don't want to make you wait 2 whole hours,
Right.
But
this is a 2-hour stream, so
extravaganza.
buckle your seatbelt. Strap yourself in.
I'm glad I haven't fell down the aquabid rabbit hole lately.
Down the aquabid.
It used to be every night, every single night. I'd come home from either working at my store or another fish store and see if there was any new guppy postings.
Yeah.
And you just look for new colors, and you want to see what all Thailand fancy guppies, what they got new. Am I going to spend $300 and import those things? And then I was always looking for just new home breeders that were playing with some stuff. And you get to learn to love and hate people. Like I always struggled with like, what was it? Pleco 11 or something like that. Like if I go on there right now, I'd be like, yeah, that guy's fish never did well for me. Never. And it's not necessarily his fault. It could just be his water structure, stuff like that. But you'd almost be waiting like, I need, like my guppy, my best guppies in the world, they were being produced in like Jakarta. Yeah. And you had to use a certain transshipper, and there was all these like things like, man, it's going to cost a lot of money, and it's using people that don't get great reviews on the transshipper. Right. I'm a little sketched out. And then I ended up spending more money, but I got it from a guy where he had already bred them in California, and I was buying some of his babies.
Yeah, so you were buying some, at least.
Wait, that's a lie. Because I got the best guppies in the world from Guppy Train. It was the fish before that I ended up getting rid of when I got my first Dumbo ear guppies.
Oh, okay.
So they were the strain I liked. It was in Jakarta, but then it turned out the same strain was being bred in California like 2 months later, and then I spent a bunch of money to buy those ones because then it was just from California to me and not from Jakarta to like Denver to me, and that was a lot longer shipping, that kind of stuff. So, but yes, if you guys don't know, the world of guppies can be as expensive as you want to let it be.
Right.
I definitely have paid in excess of $50 or more per guppy.
Really?
Yeah.
That high?
And the truth be told, I'd probably spend more.
Okay.
And the reality is, for me, I get so much enjoyment out of it that it's a worthy investment. Like, I wouldn't buy it for like my grandma, because my grandma probably would just be like, oh yeah, any guppy looks really good.
Right.
Whereas now my tastes have refined to more expensive. I wish that any old guppy gave me that excitement. But now I'm looking for new traits, or like I remember spending, it's got a little thing on the back. Like I swear, don't
worry about it.
You're good at that.
Don't worry about it.
When the see-through guppy came out,
yeah,
I spent $125 on 6 fry that were half an inch.
Okay.
And that was going in on it with another person to import them.
Wow.
It was ridiculous. But it was super cool because you got to watch the fry develop in their stomach because they were see-through. So you could just look in and be like, they've got eyeballs. Look at that. They're making a tail. Look at that.
It's got a thing happening.
And then it was one of those things like, you sold a few to guppy nerds, like through stores, and then no one in the real public, I mean, I won't say no one, but the way we tried to sell them, like I was really cranking those things out. I was really proud of them. And it was like the Japanese blue scenario again. And we'd be like, look, I can feed them. Like, I'm going to feed them spirulina. And now you can see it's green inside their stomach. And then people be like, whoa, that's weird and super gross. Totally buying something else. Like, dang it.
Yeah.
You know, and so they were getting cheaper and cheaper, and still no one was buying them. You know, so that was one where I was like, you know what? I've had my fun, and no one wants to buy them. At a certain point, what are you doing with guppies? If, like, I'm making them, I'm not super thrilled because I've had them for a while, and no one's buying them. Time to move on.
Is that time to move on?
I think so.
Yeah, I guess if
you're not enjoying them and no one's willing to buy them off you, at that point, unless you're like, I gotta preserve them
forever.
Yeah. Usually, what I do is I end up taking them all, like I catch them all out of a tank and I throw them into like a mixed tank. That's me getting rid of it. You guys have seen me do that on the channel a couple times.
Try to do something.
You put
something
those in,
else.
and now there's assorted fancy guppies. I'm like, yeah, I still kind of like them, and let's see what the genes do. Like maybe I'll have a see-through koi guppy, or a see-through half-moon guppy, or maybe just brown garbage. We'll see. You know. Right. So I still have the dream of 1 million guppies.
1 million.
Yeah, a number so high I couldn't possibly count it. That's the important part.
Yeah.
Like that 800-gallon, there was I would say at least 15% of me is like, you know what? I don't care what anyone thinks. Guppies.
Just filling it.
Yeah. But I was like, you know, that's a lot of money to get that, where I feel like, let's say in the garage we've got like a 280-gallon.
Yeah.
That could be guppies, and it would have the same effect, really.
Pretty much.
800 gallons, 280 gallons. Pretty much, when there's more guppies, when there's enough guppies you can walk across their backs, across the water, it doesn't really matter how big the tank is.
Yeah.
And I feel like that now. I want to get like a 125 going in the fish room and just be like, yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Because I'm always in love when I go to like someone's house and they've got a 55-gallon, it's overrun with guppies.
Right.
And they're like apologizing, like, no, you've made the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
Every time it's the best thing. Like, don't apologize. I aspire to be as awesome as you right now. Like, I'm jealous, wicked jealous. And a lot of times for me over the last 10 years, it's been, I'm trying to make a ton of guppies, but then either I'm at the store and I'm talking like, oh yeah, I got this, they're super cool. And pretty soon, without knowing it, there's like a insane angry mob wait list. Like, are you selling some or not? I saw you have like 400 of those things. Right. And I'm like, yeah, but I want to have like 400,000. Yeah, but I'm your buddy, right? You can sell at least one pair to me. And pretty soon, you're catching them out, you're catching them out, you're catching them out, you're catching them out. And you're like, wait a second. How'd I get down to 11 males and 2 females? What have I done? Yeah. And then I got to reset the factory for like a year or more. So, yeah. Phew. I've been doing a lot of talking. I need some water.
Water.
I do like guppies.
You do like guppies. Well, that reminds me of the story. We had this, for lack of a better way to put it, we had a customer that had come in that had a 600-gallon wall tank.
Whoa.
It was like a divider.
Yeah, room divider.
You know what I mean? Yeah, room divider. And he wanted to fill the whole thing with guppies.
I'm on board.
Yeah. And he was like, well, how many guppies do you think is good for a 600-gallon? I was like, it's a pretty big tank with a lot of swimming area, so you're going to need a lot. He was like, you think like 2,000's too many? I was like,
2,000's not too many, but that's too much money.
Yeah, that was his big issue, is that if it was going to be like $1 a guppy or whatever. So we were actually going to just wholesale him his order and not, and just be like, here, take this box. No, we're not acclimating him or any of that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure if that ever happened or if he went with somebody else or not. I wasn't. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't privy to that, but I would go. I would have loved to be able to open that box, though. I'll tell you that, and dump those bags. That would have been cool.
I feel like I'd gone with like 50 pairs.
Yeah, and just some patience.
Luckily, I'm a guy that has patience in fish tanks because I've been doing it long enough. At the beginning, I didn't. I need 1,000 guppies. How am I gonna make enough money for 1,000 guppies? Right. Instead, now I know I should buy 50 and in 6 months I'll have 1,000 of them.
Yeah, just make guppies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'll be hardier, more robust, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I kind of want to do the guppy tank with Ladybird, the Mabu puffer we have here. But I watched her attack the scrubby brush. And I don't know if it's just because she's getting to be about like this big and she's in a 40 breeder at the moment and she's like, you're in my space. Or if she's like, no, man, stone cold killer. So
Yeah, maybe she's the eater. Who knows?
She could be an eater. She's not eating the neon tetras, but neon tetras way faster than
they're pretty quick.
Guppies. Yeah, they know they're going to get eaten. So they're like, oh, yeah, don't get eaten. Where guppies are like, we need to get it on.
Like, oh, man, get out of here.
Guppies, their sole purpose is to reproduce. I'm pretty sure while they're being eaten by a bigger fish, they'll reproduce in its mouth.
Probably.
Like, they're like, in the mouth, they're like, it's oblivious, like, we should mate on the way out.
Yeah, we should be mating.
Yes. That's their number one goal. So kind of a tie-in. I'm on the fence. I've been asked that I could speak at the library convention this year.
Oh.
And what I'm afraid of is that...
You have the fear?
What's that?
You have the fear?
I do have the fear. My fear is that while crazy passionate about libraries, there are way more people that know way more about it. Right? So, like, obviously, Cory, at age 70, I will know way more about guppies than I know at age 34 right now.
Right.
And there's plenty of people there that know a wicked lot about a wicked amount of stuff. That being said, I haven't attended the last couple of library conventions, mostly because I see some of the same talks that I might have already seen before.
Right.
Definitely some of the same speakers. And then there's been a very strong, I don't know, like, line of thinking towards wild-caught preservation and wild-caught strains. And while I'm into that, I am much more into fancy strain, whether it's guppies, mollies, platies, that kind of stuff. And there's only so many research studies I want to see about wild-caught, what is it? Bomani swords. Like, I'm trying, what is it? Yeah, they're not Hellerai, but without seeing it, there's a certain sword they use in labs a lot and that kind of stuff. And it's like, because they're doing wicked cool studies and they're learning a ton about it, they'll like hire the professor and they'll come out and they'll talk about it. But it's a professor talking about it instead of like, if I ask you, how do you keep a fish? All the information you're going to give me will be from you keeping it in an aquarium, not like, well, you know, you got 7 lab assistants. They make sure that the stock is all uniform, and then we perform the experiments. Like, that is not transferable info. And so I kind of want to come in, and I want to try to breathe some fresh air into it, like, hopefully bring the YouTube crowd, because it's definitely an aging club.
Right.
Like, when I showed up 5 years ago, I pretty much was the youngest guy there by 20 years.
At least.
Yeah, at least.
Minimum.
So it's not the Nezzies. It's a different one. It starts with a B, and I want to say it's Birchmanni. I'm pretty sure it's Birchmanni. Someone can Google that and confirm whether it's Birchmanni or not. But, so they want me, and they kind of, well, I won't say they. I'll say they've asked me at this point, and I could be the featured speaker where I'm on, that means when they do the banquet dinner, and so like everyone's eating dinner, it's a good old time, and then I present. So I'm like, let's talk about stuff. And then I entertain you, hopefully. I entertain for an hour, and that's a good time. And then I would give another talk about something else, and I think I really want to lean heavy towards fancy strains, and then like new hobbyist outreach. So like, you just show up, you've been keeping fish for 6 months, and all of my advice is practical. That being said, everyone who currently attends those conventions would be mortified. Like, why would you waste time explaining like how to keep a good guppy tank? Like, I've got 700 of those over the last 80 years, you know? So it's going to be almost like a buck to the system. So I'm really torn, because I'm not really interested in just doing like a scientific thing. And so I got to approach them. I got to decide, one, do I want to do it?
Yeah.
And then two, can I do it justice?
Where's it at?
This one, so the Michigan Club, GVAC, I spoke there this year. They won the bid.
Right.
So
okay.
if you guys don't know, when you put on a convention, that's how it goes. Is like let's say this little library convention, and they go, okay, we need one for 2018, and then clubs can submit their bid. And so what that is, like, okay, we've got this convention center or hotel we want to do it at. Here's what we're thinking. Here's how many people we have to help. Here's what we think will happen. And the money gets split up between the two. So, and I don't know the split. Let's just say it's 50-50. Like the ALA convention or the club gets 50% of the proceeds, and then the club putting it on gets 50% of the proceeds. And it used to be, if you do a club or a show right, it made a lot of money. So people would really compete to get the chance to host it, because you host it. So you do like a couple weeks worth of work. It's exhausting, but then your club is set up for like 5 years, right? You're like, oh man, we can have a booming club for like 5 years. Now, it's almost like you're losing money. So now it's almost like, who's got enough money in their club that's willing to lose some money, but we need to keep these events going.
Right.
And so I would love to help change that back to like, oh, we're bidding to get to do it and get more people into it. Because when I've gone, the things like the swordtails and the guppies and the mollies that are in the show, because they do like a best of show contest, are mind-blowingly good. These are all the guys that are like, wow, you are a 75-year-old crusty dude. You've been working on this swordtail for the last 40 years. It's never been seen on the internet because you don't know how to internet. Like, you just see stuff, you're like, if this made it to my store, I'd be a millionaire.
Right. Oh, billion.
And some of them, they're like, oh, well, they're not for sale. It's my own just personal line I work with. And then, and then a lot of the stuff does go into the auction. So the third day, there's this giant live bearer auction. And they do this with, cichlids and all the other types of killifish conventions, that type of thing. But there's this huge, if you can imagine, like 4 hours and 500 different lots of nothing but live bearers.
That'd be a
lot. Wonderland.
That'd be a lot to deal with, though.
So obviously, I kind of want to go, right? Like, I kind of want to go, but I really got to decide, do I want to try and be the guy that's like, let me try and revitalize this, and if it doesn't work, I'm hated, or if it does work, I'm not going to say I'm the savior, but then all of a sudden it's like, hey, we should try to get more people that are, I think they just need a better mix. Like, I didn't want to say, like, more famous, because I'm not sure that's the right term, but if you bring 23 people out of laboratories that no one's ever heard of.
Right.
And it didn't get me excited when I'm reading the list, like, okay, so it's Dr. Jake Hall speaking on gonopodium length in longfin gene swordtails. I mean, I'll sit and watch it, but I'm not going, oh yeah, that's the one that made me book the ticket.
Yeah, got to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So I'm hoping, but I'm not sure that, like, and that's the other thing, right? So let's say I'm going to do, Joel does need more coffees.
I need more coffee. I forgot my coffee. I'll be right back.
All right. So truth be told, we've been working Joel super late. He's been burning the candle at both ends. He's been doing artwork at night, but then working all day here, and he's been leaving his house at 6 a.m. So I got to sneeze. What is with this? I think it's this. It's that mic that kills me. But we've been working on both ends, so I've been doing the same thing. I've been trying to get rest on my days off, but we're really working hard to get the new studio done. We're trying to set a deadline and just work to get it done so it doesn't take forever. But anyway, when it comes to, like, how do you name a talk and not overstate it? So if I say, like, the best guppy talk in the world, and then I just talk to all the new people that should be keeping guppies and why I love them and all that kind of stuff, I don't want to, what I would be disappointed in myself, I overstate what I'm going to deliver, and then people buy a $500 plane ticket and book the hotel room, and then they get there and like, wow, that was a crazy letdown. That being said, so far, all the presentations I've ever given to clubs, I've gotten positive feedback. People enjoy it. They have a great time. So I'm hopeful. And obviously, like, there's 399 people. So here's the crazy thing, right? There's 399 people watching us talk right now. That's more than will show up at a convention, because you got to buy a plane ticket and all that kind of stuff. So clearly I'm okay-ish in front of an audience and stuff like that. But I don't know, and I really want to do it right. So we're talking about buying a brand new camera, and I'm even today, like while I was taking a shower, I was thinking about Jimmy. What? That's weird. I was thinking about flying him around to different fish rooms to take pictures of live bears, just so that my talk had mind-blowingly good pictures. So that's how much I'm like willing to invest in it. I'm like, okay, that's going to cost me like thousands of dollars to put this presentation together. But if it radically changed the hobby and really got people back into guppies and swordtails and mollies and stuff like that on a massive scale, or at least started setting the foundation, totally worth the investment. So, Guppy Talk for the love of the hobby. That's a good topic name. I mean, it would be hard to come away disappointed of he didn't talk about guppies, or he undersold or oversold them, that type of thing. So, would I consider going to the UK to speak? I would consider it. It becomes one of those, like, can your club afford to fly me out? And then if not, can I afford to fly me out? Like, it's a, if I'm going to spend like $1,000 on a plane ticket, I might spend it to go to like Peru instead of the UK. I mean, I love the UK. I've been there once and I loved it. And in fact, Joel and I were talking about it yesterday. I was like, dude, we got to go to the UK. He's like, oh yeah? Yeah, let's do it. And so we haven't done it yet, obviously, but I was like, man, we need to tour around. That'd be fun. So, yeah.
I don't know what happened to Jimmy. I set up my camera, though, but my battery was dead.
Jimmy Sauce. No, Joel wasn't napping. He was setting up the camera.
Yeah, I ran to grab the camera and set it up.
Because on his show, if you didn't know, on his show, he does a live show every day. We'll be live later today, in fact, on the Corvus Oskin channel. By the way, congratulations on 7,000 subscribers.
7,000.
You hit that, I'm guessing,
subscribers.
This morning. I saw it this morning. So if you haven't checked it out, subscribe to him. We do an hour. Well, he does an hour-long show, and it just so happens while he's building the new studio, he's here. So we basically do the show because I'm going to be on later.
Yeah.
It's one of those, like, I mean, don't get me wrong. If you guys are tired of me, say, like, don't bring Cory on, and he can just do it. But I know a show's a lot easier with two people because then you can get up and get your coffee, reset the camera,
If you got to do it.
Yeah, sometimes you got to do it.
Well, it's like we were talking to, and Jimmy was like, yeah, Jimmy's going to get some shots, but then he left, and I don't know where he went.
He's got another hour.
He might have been eaten by bears.
It's likely.
Or
if I had to guess, he's laying
maybe
on
not
my
eaten
couch,
by bears, but maybe
dogs.
just abducted by bears.
I think he's been abducted by chihuahuas. That happens a lot.
It's probably.
And I'm like, where is Jimmy? And I walk in, and he's like just covered in dogs, and he just gives me like this like kid in paradise look.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just making sure these dogs are napping good.
Yeah. Okay. They were having trouble napping, so I thought if I showed them how to do it, they'd know how to do it.
Right.
So. Yeah. But we're about at the halfway mark. Let's hit some of those super chats we saw go by.
Oh, super chats.
We'll still talk about guppies and stuff. Don't worry. But, it is one of those things like you super chat and then you're like, no, man, I need you to wait 6 weeks and I'll get back to you. Like, we want to get back in a timely manner. So the one I went to first, I'm going to try to, okay, hold on. There's a screen we can utilize for this. I'm going to try that. Give me 1 second. Boom. Bringing it up. Bringing up the rear here. All right, here we go.
There it is.
So, the first super chat is from Connor Bishop.
Why not?
Yes. Why not? The thing is, at 5:36 p.m. So that was probably yesterday or a day before.
Oh, wow, this is a super chat from like yesterday.
From the past.
From the past to the future.
So why not? I concur. Why not?
Why not?
$2. Well, it's not $2. £2.
£2.
Maybe he's putting a down payment on us coming out to the UK.
Maybe.
Yeah. That could be.
Yeah.
Ooh, we could start that thing, like super chat us to the UK. We figure out the price of 2 plane tickets. And then I'm pretty sure we could like keep track of only pound donations. And then if they can crowdsource the £2,000, and you guys might be like, well, there's only 72 of us that like us. That either A, you guys got to pony it up, or B, it doesn't make sense to fly out to the UK if only 72 people like us when we can go to California and there's 7,200 people.
Yeah.
So
you have a point.
That's one of those things, like, if it's meant to be, there's enough, like,
Is
UK
it meant
people
to be?
willing to check in $5 or something.
It might almost be It might almost be more meant to be to just tell the 72 people to fly out here.
Because that's cheap.
Yeah, just fly out here.
Fly out here to California. We can
Look,
be taken care of.
I understand. You keep saying that you can't do it, but I know that you're just saying it.
That's right.
Yeah.
If you say it like you can do it, then you can do it.
Yeah. If you say you can, then you will, and then you will because you can.
Yeah.
Right?
So the LG3 Nation, thanks guys for the great discussion. He's got a new avatar that I've noticed, and I'm a little bit surprised because LG3 Nation is kind of known for the wackadoodle numbers. It'd be like $3.16. If I was going to say someone started that, it'd be him. He used to do that like over a year ago.
What's that?
The random numbers. He did $2. So maybe that's like reverse psychology. Maybe even in a random, $2 has to randomly come up. Like maybe he's got a random number generator.
Oh, yeah.
But he always been that guy that's been a random number instead of $2. So I don't know if he was like on the hurry or if it's reverse psychology that $2 is random.
Is
because
now
eventually
random.
that has to be random.
It has to be random at some point,
Yeah.
right?
All right. My brain was trying to pronounce this name, but it looks to me like it's A.B. Shoelace.
Yeah, A.B. Shoelace.
But my brain was trying to like read it like you would like a license plate, like Abshulace. Like what are they trying to spell out? And then it's like, oh, A.B. Shoelace.
Abs Holace?
Yeah, like it's like, is this clever? Is it clever? Am I not clever? I don't know. And
Maybe
then,
it's super clever.
A.B. Shoelace.
A.B. Shoelace.
$10 super chat. Hopefully you're still around. Hope so, because I didn't mean to delay it. But tap water's got 20 nitrates according to the multiple API and Tetra test kits. So multiple sources, I would believe. We've confirmed it's got 20.
Okay.
The water department tested 3.9 in the lab. Seems I can't trust the test kits. How else can I test my water? I would tell you that probably your test kits are correct.
I would guess.
In a lab scenario, it is very much in their favor for those results to come out under 10 ppm or whatever your current state's threshold is. So,
well,
like I know, depending on
well,
what
here's
time,
the thing. I would say this would be really confusing if it was the other way around. Like if your water source was, like the water company
If
was
they
saying
said it was
it's 20
Yeah,
and you're reading 3.9,
yeah,
that would be weird.
yeah.
But my guess would, my initial gut thing here, that the only reason I'm interjecting would be to go like, hey, wait a minute.
Do it. Bring it.
It's 3.9 at the water treatment plant and it's 20 at your house.
Yeah.
There's probably something in between
Yes.
affecting your water quality.
There's that, and it does make a difference what time of year. So, like, in the summer when there's less rain, there's less water, which parts per million would be elevated. So, like, right now in the winter, you might be going like, well, they just put out a report, but when was their sample taken? And let's be real, if you had access to the water treatment plant and you could test it every day, you know, like, for whatever reasons, don't test it right after the Super Bowl. Too many people go to the bathroom and it hits our sewage treatment plants, and naturally the next week it's just 1 part per million higher. Like they know they've got ways to like, all right, let's make sure we pass our tests. And then the other thing that I see a lot of is make sure they're measuring in parts per million.
Right.
There's a lot of times where they're like, oh no, they're measuring in parts per thousand or parts per whatever, and that's going to change the result. And it might be parts per million. You know, I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying make sure we're comparing apples to apples.
Yeah, well, yeah, make sure that the numbers that you're getting are on the same scale as yours.
Yeah.
You could have a metric and a standard. Uh-oh.
Let's not get crazy.
Oh, no, bro.
No. So you
Nah,
got you got kilograms, and you got stones, and you got pounds.
Stones? Oh.
How many stones are you?
How many fingers are you tall?
A lot.
Or hands? How many hands are you tall?
That's how they measure horses.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think that was a real thing until I learned it was an actual thing. Is it that way? I assumed it was this way.
That might be this way. I don't know.
I don't care that much.
Either way,
talk about it.
Either way, incredibly inaccurate.
Oh no, way accurate. You're totally wrong.
Oh, right.
But let's say you got 20 parts per million nitrate in your water.
Mm-hmm.
One, I actually think I'm kind of happy about that. I've talked about this before. I would love to have some nitrate not in my drinking water. Like, I don't want to drink it, but for my fish tanks, yeah. I would like 20 parts per million. Sounds to me like my plants will be banging all the time. Like, auto water change, kind of like, here's a little auto fertilizer. A little bit. Like, I'm not going to say, oh, man, I don't have to do any more work, but I think it's a little boon, a little boost.
I wouldn't say, I mean, it's not over the top.
It ain't horrible.
You know.
But if you wanted to get rid of it, I feel like I would do what I'm doing in my fish room and just put like a whole house filter on there. Mm-hmm. And I bet you that would filter out some. So you go from 20, now you got 7.
Yeah, I don't think...
Because I'm not going to like put it through just the ringer. Finally. Yeah. RODI unit coming out 0. Complete waste of time and money when I could have had 6 plants and it accomplished it.
Pretty much, yeah.
But I might put a whole house filter on there just because it's like, oh, that's a $60 expense once. And then every 2 or 3 months, you put a new cartridge in there and you're good. So that's how I would tackle it. I wouldn't be super concerned that the numbers are different. Numbers are different all the time. Like, you know, water reports are a little scary to me. And it's because all of a sudden you're like, wait, there's copper in the water, and there's lead, and there's this, and there's this. Mm-hmm. But yeah, at what levels? And then the thing is like, well, what level becomes toxic to humans, dogs, or fish? Yeah. Like, so you end up down a rabbit hole where you're like, bad things might be happening. I'm not even sure if I'm upset yet. I mean, I am upset, but I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be upset.
Yeah.
Like, this is bad.
It's just bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clearly things in water can't be good.
Yeah, I wouldn't be, personally, I wouldn't be hyper concerned about that nitrate level. I imagine in my tanks it would just disappear. You just really wouldn't notice it. And it is low enough that I wouldn't be freaked out for water changes. I mean, I would just say that if it is at 20 parts per million, I would just start checking to make sure that there isn't any other, like, contaminants in it. And then
that's a good point.
You're probably fine. I mean,
because you might be
it'd
more
be weird
worried
to find out that there was like mercury in the water or something,
or
right?
Even
then
like,
that would be problematic.
Let's say you got 20 parts per million nitrate, but you're like, oh man, phosphate's off the chart.
Right.
No wonder I got algae problems.
No wonder I got algae because it's dumping all this
phosphate. It might
phosphate
be indicative of like something else going on. Also, possibly. I'm not putting scare tactics in you. I'm just saying that if I had that, I'd be like, oh, let me investigate a little bit further just to make sure.
Just to make sure. But if it's just the nitrate, I
have a feeling that if I had that water, I would take a water sample and I would ship it to that Triton test we talked about a long time ago.
You could do Triton.
It's like $50 or something like that.
Local hardware stores will do it.
Will they do all the things that we'd want to know in an aquarium? I've always been like, yeah, you just go and do that, but I've never actually done it.
You go to like
Home Depot will do it every once in a
Lowe's
while.
or Home Depot.
Whenever they're like wanting to sell water filtration systems, they're like, bring it on in this Saturday. We'll do it.
Yeah, so you like bring in some samples. I think it's like $20 or something like that. It's not super
I thought
crazy.
It was free. Maybe
the
only
one
Saturdays
that they send in or whatever, I think, is free. Or the one that they send in is like some money you have to pay for.
That's the more official one. Otherwise, for free, they break out like the API test.
I think
kit.
that's what. Yeah, that's what goes on. But
spawn. Pool.
I normally just taste it and then I know. Bruh.
I lap it up like a cat.
Bruh. But also, I would also say that like if the plant is saying it's at 4 parts per million, and then when it gets to your house at 20 parts per million, there's either something contaminating in there, or the water is either being oxygenated or not being oxygenated, right? So there's a bit of a probably,
I bet you would probably get some fluctuation based on like, oh yeah, everyone in the house took a shower and then I took a glass of water and then I tested it versus like I just woke up this morning, no water's been used.
Straight out the pipe.
Because you might have like some, let's say, I don't want to say bacteria, but some crud in your pipes and stuff like that's spilled up over the last 70 years or whatever else your house is. Or the pipe before that pipe is not your house. You're like, that's the thing. It goes into a network that you don't really have control over. So.
Well, yeah, we had a big fire down the street a little while, 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
I think somebody was like camping
lighting
in their living room.
Off in the middle of the night?
Probably lighting fireworks off inside.
Yeah.
Because it was too cold out. You know.
You don't want to get wet.
And, there's a big house fire down the street.
Yeah.
And luckily everyone was fine.
Yep.
And then trains apparently falling from the sky also. That was yesterday.
You got a lot going on in Tacoma.
There's a lot going on right now. There's a few accidents happening.
Yeah.
But so they had, of course, the fire trucks that came and kicked open all the fire hydrants.
Yeah.
So Vicky and I had that like rusty sediment water there for like a day and a half.
Really? So them using that, you'd think
kicks
it would have
loose all
gone
the sediment from the big pipes. That
because there's so much water going
there's
through.
so
now?
much water going through there.
Oh, so it's like
yeah, if you had
houses using it's trickling out, but then once the fire hoses, it rushes through like it's a dam
boom,
that gave
it's
way.
gangbusters. Yeah, so it's like if the water main was, let's say the water main in my neighborhood is a 10-inch pipe.
Sure.
Right. All the houses just intermittently using water.
Yeah.
That water's just slowly.
They might have needed a
there.
1-inch pipe.
It's not going fast.
That much. Yeah.
It's not going fast. Most of the houses are supplied by a 3/4 inch.
Right.
So it's not, there's water moving through there, but it's not going super fast. But when you go down and open up 4-inch pipes down the line.
Yeah, you open up full bore.
Yeah. Woo, buddy.
Yeah, the water's moving.
Yeah. And I think in the water main, it's the water pressure in the main is like 105.
It's like 1 billion,
I think.
yeah.
It's 105, and then it's restricted.
It's enough to like kill you. Like
it's restricted
with one of
down
those fire
to
hoses. Like it's pretty powerful.
It's restricted down to 70 when it comes into a house. But either way, yeah, when you open up that fire hydrant, I mean you could kill some. I mean, it'd be a weird situation.
Right
but yeah, they could blast. They could blast you pretty good. I used to have a 4-inch restrictor that went down to a garden hose. So it was like this big brass restrictor.
Yeah.
So I could. Don't ever do this, kids. But I would take I had to do it for work.
Oh, okay. I was like, are you just incriminating yourself at the moment, or
no? We actually had to do it for work, but I had an extra one in my pickup truck.
Yeah, just in case.
Well, we had to do it for work.
Yeah.
But it's how we'd power wash like big parking lots.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I had a restrictor plate that would go on a fire extinguisher down to a garden hose size. So I could get full fire extinguisher power in like a garden hose.
Was it hard to hold on to? Like Okay.
Yeah. And like, so you'd have like a garden hose size stream that would shoot like 200 feet easy.
Take the paint right off the vehicle.
Oh yeah, I would take paint off the vehicle probably. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of power behind those, but the whole reasoning for that story is that Vicky and I had like, you could visibly see the sediment and rust in the water, from the mains, which it's not toxic.
Right, but don't be wrong though. Like if that was coming out of my tap, I'd be freaking out. I'd be Googling for sure. Like what?
Yeah, I've already previously Googled that so many times that I should have learned it by now, right? So actually, luckily, I had at least a little brain goings, right?
Brain noggin.
And I was like, okay, it's not actually that bad. So, I
mean, in theory, once that goes through, your water's technically slightly cleaner.
Mm-hmm. Aqua Apprentice is saying we had to do it for work. Zip the lip. Yeah. Well, actually, a little bit of backstory. I used to run street sweepers over the graveyard shift, over the overnights. When you see those big street sweepers going around in the middle of the night, I was one of those dudes.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we had to do in the summertime is you have to fill up the truck with water in order to have a water suppression system that actually sprays down and mists water, so there's no dust flying all over the place.
All right.
While you're sweeping.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we would have to go out to like new parking lots. Okay. And you have to wet down the asphalt during the summertime. Yeah. And so that was one of the reasons that we would hook into those fire hydrants. We had all our permits. I don't know if they were current, but we had them.
Right.
And we had all of our permits to do that stuff, and we had to go through a training thing so you didn't kill yourself with the fire hydrant, and all that kind of stuff. So we actually did do that stuff for work. It was a good job. It was fun. Yeah. Fun job. Always something crazy.
Hey, brought knowledge to the fish talk.
It was fun.
Yeah. So Casimir with the $5 super chat. Love all the content y'all create. Always eager to see new videos and listen to the podcast. Always learn something new from each video and podcast. Josh. Well, thank you.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's high praise. I like that.
So.
And I definitely like that people are learning stuff.
I won't argue it.
Doing the brain learn. You won't argue.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't argue with that one. Yeah.
No, can't do it.
Michael Faulkner, one of our longtime supporters, $5 super chat. Hey guys, I'm working, so I'll catch us later. Happy holidays and thanks for great tips.
Oh, thank you very much, Michael Faulkner.
Well, when you're listening to this later,
Michael's one of our big. Michael's one of our big supporters.
Yeah.
And he's got the cool avatar with pretty much everything I'm looking for in an avatar.
Yeah.
It's got beards.
Yeah.
It's got eye patches. It's got crazy hats.
Yeah.
It's a 2-color scheme instead of a whole bunch of colors. There's a lot going on there that I'm into.
It's good stuff. We got Nisi, $2 super chat. For the new people, how do they enter the contest?
Now the contest.
I'm glad you reminded me because I almost forgot. Like I had Nightbot spamming you guys for the last hour or whatever. But I am doing a big contest.
Oh, sorry.
1,000 gift card dollarinos.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing 20 $50 gift cards.
20 of them.
20 winners. I am going to limit to 1 winner per person. You know, so like if by a miracle. Otherwise, Aquarium Co-op magically won them all. Sorry. Like, I had enough.
I know somebody was complaining earlier that they said that your advertising was...
It's one of those ways where, depending on how you read it...
Well, yeah, that was like, you can't actually win 1,000. It's like... Oh, it would be weird if one person won them all.
Yeah.
That would be weird.
It would be shenanigans.
Right.
So, but you head over to the website, you click on the thing called contest, and then there's like a billion ways to enter. So it might be... like, share an Aquarium Co-op hat picture on Instagram, get some points. Subscribe to Corvus, get some points. Subscribe to Real Fish Talk, get some points. Buy something from the store, get some points. Come back each day and click the button, get a point. Like, there's ways to get entries, and then that's all you have to do. So you can get quite a few entries and never spend $1. It's just kind of a way to give back. So, yeah, that's kind of the contest deal. It goes till January 1st or whatever. Give you time to, if you want to purchase something, if you want to like, oh yeah, I got to break out the camera, take a picture of my Christmas ornament on my tree because it looks super cool. You know, just dangling there.
Yeah.
And post that up on Instagram with the hashtag Aquarium Coop. Coop. Yeah, you do that and get you some points, get you entered in, and win you some gift cards. It's restricted to only USA people and people who can come to the USA. So, if you live in another country, but you're like, oh no, man, in the summer, I'm flying there and I'm going to buy some stuff, you could win. But I can't ship it to you in Indonesia or wherever you're from. Like that, like I shipped a package to someone that had been waiting a very long time, and I had made a promise, which I never make promises because that just makes me have to do things I don't want to do. But shipping to a certain place, the box that cost $12.50 to ship in the USA was $75 to ship out of the country.
$75.
So the shipping
Good
is
Lord,
$75.
that's a lot of money.
What we put in the box doesn't go towards that $75. That's just, yeah. So that's why we don't ship. Canada's the same way. Like, oh yeah, you want that box? Yeah, it's $43. Like, what? Like, it just,
what?
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part. So, all right, let's get into, the second hour here. We're at 1 hour and 13 minutes in. What do we want to talk about with guppies? Or what do you guys want us to talk about with guppies that we haven't talked to yet? So Jerry's breeding some purple dragon guppies and hoping to sell some to his local fish store. I've done lots of shows on breeding guppies and how to make money. I mean, I don't want to say make money, but definitely generate some income to further the addiction.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen so many.
There are times when I've
seen a lot of videos and stuff out there that are like people like how to make money.
Yeah.
And like I honestly with like breeding programs and stuff like that, like you're going into it, they're like, what am I going to do so I can make money as far as like breeding fish, breeding shrimp, whatever it is not a good idea. I wouldn't go into it trying to make money.
I think it takes a certain skill set.
I would go into it to try and make an environment for that thing to do well, whether it be shrimp or fish or plants or whatever. Coral, I don't know. And if that works out, then you could probably sell some of them at some point in time.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, that's how you should enter into it. There are times I've made giant piles of money from it, and then there's times where I've lost tons of money. And I'm not saying lost, but like you buy things like see-through guppies, and you're like, yeah, they're cool, and I'm going to make a ton of money. And then you're like, no, actually, I'm not making any money at all. Yeah. Like, at all. What's going on over there?
I don't know.
Shenanigans.
Crazy. I just brought in a package.
Oh, brought in the package. You guys want to see Jimmy's crazy new thing? Let me see if I can even get it. I got to move the mic out of the way. Look at this crazy contraption he's got for filming us now. It's like the ultimate gimbal-y thing. Like, oh, I broke my finger. But I know Jimmy came over here to grab it because he's got to do some filming. And I know that mic was bad, but he's got this crazy new contraption. It's got a remote control.
Yeah.
Like this thing here. If you like hold it and move it, it does things. I don't really get it yet, but I've been watching Jimmy like sit over in his corner and giggle and be like, "Look, it did a thing," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, is that a thing we need to do?" Well, no, I mean, you know, it's something we could do if we ever needed to do it.
It's a thing that we could do if we had to do that thing that we could possibly do.
Those are the
now
crazy
we're able.
things. Like this is why Jimmy's a rad employee, is he invested in that himself. He's like, well, I don't know, man. Maybe we could do something with it, because like we're not convinced that we actually need one of those things, but he just wants to really play with one. Like when he makes his Sunday videos. And he goes and hiking up in the mountains in the snow and that kind of stuff. In that environment, that thing's going to be rad. But on a tripod, sitting in front of a fish tank, we're not exactly like jogging, you know, so you don't really need to stabilize it much. But
perfect practice.
It will get some cool panning shots. Mm-hmm. But yes, talk about something. Someone else asked about a product which I happen to have in the other room that I can go grab.
What you got? What you talking about?
You can't know yet, but you can talk about something else.
What you talking about, bro?
You won't know.
What happened there, bro? Yeah, but I guess back on what I was talking about before we got so rudely distracted. Bamboozled, hijacked with the hijinks of the gimbal action over here. He's still learning how to turn it on. It seems quite complicated to actually turn it on. It seems odd. Is that how you do it? You physically put it straight? You physically put it straight right here? Is that how you do it? You physically do it from the front? Yeah. So what I was talking about was if you're going to try to go into something in the realm of like you're going to try and make money, I certainly wouldn't go that route if you were going to be trying to, breed for money, breed for profit, all this kind of crazy stuff that I've seen. I've seen a lot of that coming up lately. Almost everybody I know that's like trying to breed for profit, they get so stressed out about everything that's going on that the breeding project essentially falls apart because there's really like no. Well, I'm not saying always or all the time or anything like that, but if somebody goes in and they like say they dump like $3,000 in setting up a bunch of tanks, get all this stuff together, do all these things,
that's
and then they're like
opposite of my advice.
And breed, breed, damn you, you know. It's not really going to work. It's not going to work. I think how most people's expectation is going to work out. So the recommendation I always give to people is just try to make a good environment for whatever it is that you want to breed. Focus on that. And then if you get that going, at some point in time, you'll suddenly end up with a bunch of something.
Yeah.
And then if there is a market for it at the time, you could probably resell them.
Yep.
But I'd never go into it. I would never tell somebody like, yeah, go get like 2 pair of these shrimp that are $400 a piece.
Yeah, definitely.
And then try to breed those. And same thing with the guppies. Like you go like, oh, this is the rarest guppies in the world.
I only do it because I actually like them.
Yeah, so that's what I would always recommend is like find something that you like, you enjoy, and you want to learn about and that kind of stuff. If you're looking to like breed them and resell somewhere.
I think the biggest thing with the breeding fish for profit, and let's say it's guppies, is that it's not scalable. Like, I feel like with 1 or 2 tanks, like, wow, I'm making some cheddar here. This is working out pretty good.
Right.
But then you end up going full fish tank room mode, and you're like, oh, now I've got 72 tanks. Somehow I'm actually making less money than when I had 2 tanks. And it's like, well, now you've got so many projects, you've spent so much money buying the fish that will make you money eventually.
Right.
But then you have less time per fish. You're getting more diseases. You're getting more things happen. And somehow you actually are, making less money than if you had just had 2 tanks.
Right.
Which this might chime in. I saw earlier, didn't you put your topic today on your show as like managing big fish rooms or something?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we'll talk more about this later. I don't know. I don't know what direction we're going. I just saw the
that's a
topic.
good point. Yeah, I threw that topic up there because Tuesday's normally like an equipment day normally on my show,
okay.
what we normally talk about, but I don't know that we really had anything here that we really wanted to talk
Well,
about.
I got equipment that someone was asking about right here.
Oh, man, what are you doing?
I know.
No, actually, I saw you bring that over. I was like, that probably would have been a good thing to talk about at some point in time.
Yeah.
Oh, like,
Well, someone was
I don't
asking.
know. Maybe we talk about it right now because
Yeah.
we both have mouths and we're both talking.
Do we?
Yeah.
So someone was asking if they made automatic timer for fertilizer thingies.
They do.
And that's other words for auto dosing pump.
Mm-hmm.
This one is made by Jibao. Ooh. And it's like $60 or $70 on Amazon or something like that. And it has been reliable for me. Currently I own 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
I run 2 of them, one in the store and one in the warehouse feeding the plants. And I'm going to take one out and kind of show you what you're looking at, I guess. Because, a box says something, but it doesn't show you.
Doesn't show you exactly what's happening.
Yeah. So it's a unit. It's like, okay. It's like this big. You can see hands for size here. And basically each one of these is a little dosing pump. And it measures it in milliliters. And one side, you've got like, oh, let's suck some liquid up. And let's put some liquid out somewhere. So you might, like in my stores, or store and warehouse, I have this connected to like a 1-gallon thing of Easy Green. And then it dispenses it into tanks. And so like in the store, we have one of these feeding 4 different tanks. Mm-hmm. In the warehouse, I have one of these feeding 3 different products into one sump that runs 16 tanks.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got one on Easy Green, we've got one on Easy Iron, and we've got one on Easy Carbon. So we've got that going, and you got a little controller up here. It's a little bit cumbersome. I want to say for $60, this thing's amazing. If this thing was $400, I'd be like, this thing's horrible. Like this, it's too cumbersome to program. But you work your way through a menu, and you got kind of a little thick little booklet here, and you can dose anything. The cool thing is you could like work your way to dose. Let's say you had an auto water change system, but you had chloramine, you couldn't get rid of it. Mm-hmm. You could be like, yeah, this thing kicks on at 1:02 in the afternoon, and it doses 5 milliliters of prime. And then my water change system kicks on at 1:03 for 6 minutes, and then it's going to dechlorinate that for you. So you can get kind of crafty. They use these a lot in saltwater tanks. You can dose different nutrients.
Yeah.
I've really wanted to try, and I haven't yet because I got to take one of these apart and really look at it. But I really wanted to try, like, what if I had a live thing of baby brine shrimp, and then this thing, like, after 24 hours, just spit the brine shrimp into the tank. I think that'd be kind of cool, something to play with. I haven't done it yet. But this one right here is meant for the 800-gallon. I've just been busy, and currently we just kind of pour some fertilizer in. But what I do like about this is just like adding a timer to a light, this becomes one more constant thing. And so if I put 2 milliliters into a 50-gallon tank of Easy Green every day, that is much more consistent than once a week. Oh, and then I was busy that day, so it's every 9 days actually, and that kind of stuff. So it's really consistent, doles out that food. It's portion control, is really. And so when you have that being controlled and you have your light being controlled, really you kind of you're only like, oh, this is different, is going to be food. And luckily at the store, I basically run just plant-only tanks, so we can really dial them in pretty well.
Yeah.
And I've got the CO2 on a timer, I've got this on a timer, I've got the light on a timer. So I'm not going to say they run themselves. They still take maintenance and stuff like that. But we've taken as much work as we can out and become as reliable as we can. So even on Christmas when we're closed, fertilizer, lights, CO2, water changes, all that stuff's automated. so we don't get any excess buildup and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of cool. They come with some extra pump heads. I've never had one break yet. Knock on wood.
Oh, they came with extra ones?
Yeah, they usually come with, right here. They come with an extra one. And I've never needed an extra one yet.
Oh, the tubes will burn out. They'll wear out.
So I'm 3 years in so far, and I haven't run into a problem yet. So I don't know if it's...
Double check and make sure it's working.
All right. I mean, I do look at them, and I don't know if it's just what we're doing.
I used to work for a dishwashing company that would pay people to drive around and change those tubes out every 2 weeks.
Why does a dishwashing company need
That's
these?
where those come from. Those are actually a dosing pump designed for dishwashers.
This one is?
Commercial
I always
dishwashers.
assumed it was
That's a scaled down version.
just a scaled version down of like a hospital pump thing.
Dishwasher. Automatic chlorine dosing.
Well,
When they introduced chlorine dosing into sanitation, that's when that was designed.
so I'll say this. So far, I haven't noticed one going bad.
Yeah, the little tube in there will get worn out and it won't lift anymore and pull.
I wonder if it's chlorine does that. Like, I wonder if it's the chemical reacting with that. Because I think I would see it when I'm like, oh, yeah, the plant's dying. Like, they're not getting foods. So I just haven't noticed it yet. It is a little bit tricky to set up, by the way. Like, at least with this one. And I read the instructions, because off the top of my head, I'm already struggling. But I believe this has to be above the fertilizer. So the fertilizer has to be lower. This has to be higher. But then the tank has to be higher than this. Otherwise, when this thing turns off, it would just like siphon. Like, so if the fertilizer was like above, it would just siphon all the fertilizer through. And there's a specific way you got to set it up so that I don't want to call it a check valve, but so that you don't just be like, yeah, I just dumped a gallon of fertilizer straight into my 50 gallon or something like that.
They just keep going.
But it is a video. The reason I haven't set it up yet is I want to make a video on it.
Okay, yeah.
So,
We should do
obviously
that.
it's going to be promotional.
That
like,
one might
oh.
accidentally catch on fire. I can't
could be.
guarantee you anything.
This is crazy, though. It's got a port here. I wonder if you could hook it up to like your computer or something.
Can you USB control it?
No?
Oh, that'd be so much easier to program it.
Yeah, but I bet you it takes like a little Raspberry Pi type of thing. Here. You going to modify it?
Does it get an Arduino?
Yeah, it's like a phone jack.
I'm excited.
Have you ever programmed an Arduino?
Me?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I would live to do that. It's always on my like, oh man, I want to make things, do things that really don't need to be done. Yeah, that's a fun moment.
That's the fun part.
Yeah. So maybe we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But it will just be one giant commercial of like, look, Easy Green pumps. They're so easy to dose. It's so cool. But the core meat will be like, you could dose any liquid you want.
You could be like, you could be cool like Cory and get yourself an automatic dosing pump. You could be a dork like Joel and use the manual version.
Yeah, exactly. Look how much work and effort that is. It's dang near unbearable. His finger gave out the other week. I'm already excited to make that video.
It's
I'm
so
excited.
hot in here.
By adding you to it, it will be better. I also want to... No, I don't want to spoil it. Never mind.
No, yeah, don't spoil it.
You'll have to wait. You'll have to wait for this gold.
Spoiler alert.
So yeah, I got a couple of these. One's going on the 800 gallon, and I've got another one for... the name is the Weiss tank, because it's, I'm not gonna say fully planted, but it's planted. Lots of stuff going on. We got to turn the footage into a video. You guys might want to see that, but we're here to talk about guppies and dosing pumps and other stuff.
Yeah. Well, why not?
But yeah, I mean, we get a little crazy at the end there, because I mean, that's the catch-22 is we do want to answer people's questions.
Somebody was asking if you could breed Pleiades
And Endlers, right?
Endlers.
Yes. To the best of my knowledge, no. You can cross them with swords.
You can cross them with swords, I
Yeah.
believe.
So it's
But-
swords and platies and guppies and mollies.
Just remember that swordtails and Pleiades can breed,
Yep.
but nothing with the Endlers.
Besides guppies.
Right. Besides Guppies. But I would say that I think Pleiades and swordtails would just eat Endlers.
So there is probably that.
Most likely.
And then there's always
It'd be like a Mastiff trying to breed with a Chihuahua,
Yeah.
like
There's always a caveat of like there probably is other crosses that can technically happen that just aren't being tried out of rarity. Like maybe tiger teddies, the live bearer, and Endlers can cross, but no one's putting it in a situation where that would happen.
Right.
I'm not saying they've never been kept together, but like to get mollies and guppies to breed, you pretty much have to have one male
and one female.
Yeah, and they're like out of desperation. And I don't think many people are setting that scenario up of like, oh, let's try one tiger teddy and let's try one Endler.
I would guess that most people would have them like in a community tank together, and that's just really.
Yeah, and and if that one didn't work, maybe the Metallicus live bearer or maybe the Merry Widow live bearer. Like, there's so many combos that stuff could or couldn't be done. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited. The adult dating website finally found you here on Real Fish Talk. They used to only plague you, I feel like.
They follow me. It follows me around for some reason.
You bring it.
Although last time they were asking about how to cook spaghetti or something, I think.
They were getting intelligent. They asked a question about a fish.
They've reprogrammed them to be like,
yeah.
Hey guys, bots. You like cheese? And you're like, yeah, I like cheese. Wait, you're not a cheese salesman. Get out of here.
That's right.
You can't be trusted.
Yeah.
You don't have any delicious smoked Gouda.
You're not my local cheese salesman.
You're not the local cheese salesman.
I know Tom.
Yeah.
Rip tails with guppies. Usually it's either A, you've got a heavy male factor, or B, poor water conditions, which is easy to get into with guppies. You get too many of them going. Christmas is happening. You're like, oh, well, I only changed water once this week.
Mm-hmm.
I fed a little heavy because my niece was over, so we fed 4 times that day instead of 2 like normal.
Yeah.
But usually it's either A, some squabbling going on, or B, water parameters, or C, both. Like, oh, squabbling going on, water's a little bit lackluster than normal, and it's just not healing up. If they do split, depending on how far down it goes, maybe it's never going to heal back up. It could also be one of those things that the tail is so big that it's split apart based on just like, that tail is too large.
Yeah.
That can happen where it's like, yep, it just can't support itself.
Oh, I did remember somebody was saying earlier, somebody had mentioned earlier or maybe they'd asked about almond leaves. And I wanted to answer that. It was an inopportune time, so I'm not sure who had asked it or not. Do it. I may. But they were asking about almond leaves, and yes, I actually use almond leaves with my guppy tanks. Just not. I don't go like crazy with the tannins or anything like that, but I have seen just a little bit of a benefit from just some added.
Antibacterial.
A little bit added. Yeah, it's helpful.
I mean, if you do like a garbage bag full, you're going to lower the pH, and that would be bad.
That would be crazy. But I only do, even in my 150. I only add like 4 at a time.
Yeah, that's not many.
Yeah. So it's just enough to kind of, hey, get a little in here,
Yeah.
Yeah. But the 240, that gets 30 leaves at a time. I take 2 of the bundles, drop them right in there. Yeah. But I also got the Dragonstone and a bunch of other stuff going on there, so whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever.
Yeah.
But the Killies are in there being rude.
So Jack Betts says tiger teddies and guppies are 2 different geniuses, so no. Yes, that is technically true, but I'm not convinced that you couldn't cross stuff. I'm pretty sure in a lab, that kind of stuff can be done in your own common tank. No. The other thing is, you're saying they're 2 different genuses, but what about Crabensis and Teneotis? They've changed basically genus. Well, no. They haven't changed genus, but they've changed like scientific name like 30 times in the last like year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so there's things that like you could say like, oh no, this plus this, that is impossible. And yet in 5 years ago, turns out they're actually the same thing. We as humans were just dumb.
Right.
So like it's one of those like on paper that's impossible. Oh, in practice we were wrong. And so that's why I leave the there are so many combos that have probably never been tried that I'm not going to say while unlikely, I'll say it's unlikely, but I'm not going to say impossible. I don't like to close the door on something if I can help it.
Yeah.
And, just like for a long time, we thought rams, Microgeophagus, were the same as like normal geophagus, and we thought rams and apistogrammas were the same. But as time goes, we learn, and then we might learn that, we thought they were the same, they're not, and then 27 years later, we're like, oh, actually, they are.
Right.
Like we start doing a lot of counting, we start doing a lot of, we get more, now we can really do DNA work. We can do a lot of things that we couldn't necessarily do before, and so I'm just saying there are probably combos that on paper would not work. But, for instance, maybe no one's ever kept tiger teddies and anableps in the same tank because they eat them. But then by some random miracle, it could work. I'm saying, like, right now, there's a 99.9% chance that could never happen. I get that. But I'm not convinced there could never be crossbreeding like that. Just because we put it in one category, that doesn't make something impossible.
Yeah, it doesn't make it impossible. I just think one of the biggest problems is that if you do have them in a community tank, is going to be your worst setting.
It all depends.
As far
on,
as even with your result,
size.
even with your result too, unless you have a way to test DNA strains and stuff like that at your house, which, as we know, when they DNA test, you have to.
Yeah.
There's no survivor, so it's kind of an issue in regards to that.
Mm-hmm.
So to try and figure out what you got going on and that kind of stuff. But you could do some isolated tanks. I think that's probably going to be the best bet to see like some other strains, and the best advice that I could give to hobbyists, stuff like that, is that like maybe you have like 7 tanks in your house. It would be pretty easy to like dedicate like a 20-gallon to just a pair of something. And not be super stressed out about it, because like maybe your other tanks are the ones that you're really going to be messing with and stuff like that. But I think that would be the best advice that I could give if you were trying to do something along those lines. Like you're going to go like, look, this is what I really want to see if this will work or not. That's what I would do.
There's definitely people trying. There are more hybrids that were thought to be impossible in African cichlids right now than there ever's been.
Right.
Like albino Moriarty, and without doing research, because I've only seen it a couple of times, I want to say the guy that had them, he's like, oh yeah, they crossed a Socolofi, a snow white Socolofi with the Morai, and that's now how we have this. And I was like, whoa, you wouldn't have thought that would have happened. There's been a few different things where like, dang, that shouldn't have been possible, and yet, all right.
And yet here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess I like to keep an open mind and go, highly unlikely. It's like my should you or could you? And it's like, oh, is this technically possible? Yes. Is it likely? No. But technically, yes.
Is it technically possible? Yeah.
So, it's like, did we think we should, whoever thought that we could take jellyfish DNA and stuff like that and start crossing it into fish?
Right.
Like, well, technically it can be done.
Or into wheat.
Yeah. DNA therapy, gene therapy, that kind of stuff. So it's,
There's quite a bit that goes into it, but yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people saying that we should buy a microscope.
They want to know if I'm going to buy a microscope. Probably not. I'm convinced that the microscope I need is very expensive, like in the $3,000 and up range. And I think that's something I'm going to bust out once a year.
Right.
In practice, you're like, no, man, every fish that comes in, gill and lateral line scraping and a fecal smear, I'll do it. At least every bag of fish. And then it comes down to like, wait, I barely have enough time to put them into a tank, let alone like, oh, let's take an extra 6 hours. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be 6 hours of microscoping.
Mm-hmm. So Gary B says, I don't think the 800-gallon is cool now with those fish that are in there. Tiger barbs don't seem to swim and school up as much. That's the cool thing about a tank, is it's an evolution. Like, this tank looks nothing like what it's supposed to look like. When there's all 1 foot long clown loaches, that'll be a very different aquarium. So what you see right now really has nothing to do with my final project. That's just like, oh yeah, put something in there to look at while I'm waiting for clown loaches to grow out. So it'll be an evolution of like, yeah, you might say it doesn't look as cool now, but there's plenty of videos. Go look at what it looked like without them. And then how's it going to look in 2 months when you add something else? I don't know. We're going to look at it. You know, like I personally enjoyed posting pictures to Instagram about how there's water all over the monitor because the archers are spitting at us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, yeah, target barbs aren't doing their thing as much as they were, but now I'm enjoying archers, and then I'll be enjoying something else, and then something else. Like, that's the goal. So, the other thing is, like, you could say, like, yeah, those fish don't make it do the thing like they used to do. Well, also, the wave maker's not on. We have it on set to a schedule now, and when it's on, then they all school up. Right now, they just ate and they lay around, and then when that turns on, they go, oh, God, get to the school. Get to the chopper. So, we're just changing things. And I myself, obviously I'm the guy that owns the tank, and I make the decisions of what goes in there. So obviously I should like it more. Like, oh yeah, I put those fish in there because I like them. So it's, one of those things of do what you like. And if you enjoy it, you've won. And I'm enjoying it, so I've won. So, Jeff's Aquarium Hobby Enjoyment, $3.50. And Guppies in one of the new studio tanks? I would say almost definitely yes, at least one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there are guppies in that room that have to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't go in there, that means they go to the store. And there are definitely guppies that I don't want to go to the store.
Right.
So I would say highly likely for them to make their way into the thing. So, yeah, those archers are chilling right there because they never get to go into that part of the aquarium. Because once that power head turns on, of a ridiculous amount of gallons per hour, they don't get to be over there anymore. So they're like, hey, be over here while we can.
Well, we can.
And that's how I learned they like to spit water out that hole at us because we were never turning the power head all the way off. We were turning it down to we'd have it ramped down to 10, 20% at night. Now we let it turn all the way off, and they get to utilize that part of the tank. So, yeah. Let's see here. What time is it? We're at minute 41. We got about 20 minutes left. What do we want to talk about? We got a guppy question.
It's 11:45.
Yeah. I know we got other segments we're going to work into the show eventually, so it'd be a little easier to fill it. We're just now ready. We're now ready, man.
We're working them in.
Can you talk about guppy breeding, passing down genes? So I've never done extensive work with this. So I've never been like, oh, let me take known recessive gene plus this known recessive gene, combine them and make this. Like, I've never done that much work because it's an insane amount of work. But what I do know is when you're trying to change, like, let's say you want to make a guppy more blue, and your guppy right now is like pretty blue. The fry that come from that aren't necessarily going to be more blue. Let's say you outcross. And what's outcrossing? Outcrossing is, like, let's say you've been making a blue guppy and they're starting to get traits you don't like. Like maybe the body's a little thin, maybe the fins aren't as big, something like that, and you want to outcross it. Well, you might outcross it with like a black Moscow or a purple Moscow or a green Moscow. Those are all in the same color scheme as that blue one you got. So you outcross it, and you're going to go, oh, man, but now it looks even less blue. Like, that's worse.
Yeah.
But it's actually the fry from those offspring, so the next generation down, that should present what the look you were going for actually is. So you'll get the genes from whatever you outcrossed with, plus the genes of the ones that you've been working on. Those fry will look a little bit weird, but because a lot of traits are recessive, it's those fry from those that will actually look more towards what you're trying to get it to go to. So a lot of the genes are recessive, and that's what throws a lot of people off. Like, I don't get it. I put a green guppy together and a red one, and the fry is just like a whole myriad of things. And it's like, well, yeah, you then have to take something from there, and you might find that you take the one that's the most red, going, yeah, I want to make a new red one, and their fry are all green. Like, what?
Yeah,
you know, so you gotta play around with it a bit. You can look and see what other people have done, and they know, like, oh, what colors mix with what genes mix with what that most likely put out this.
Right.
But you end up using Punnett squares, and you go, okay, so if I mix this color and this color, or this gene and this gene, X amount are going to come out this, X amount are going to come out this, X amount are going to come out this. And then when you take what you wanted from that and you breed more of it out, the percentages all go up. And that's when you get, when you're looking on Aquabid, you'll see things that, like, they might be labeled as their set, or what percentage are they breeding true.
Yeah.
That means that they've worked with that Punnett square and they've line bred that enough to where, like, I think nowadays 92% or more is considered to be set. So that means out of 100 babies, 92 will look like the adults, 8 will be oddballs.
Yeah.
I had some black Moscows that were more like 99.8 out of 100, and because I didn't see the mutations for a few years. It was like 2 years later they started throwing albinos.
Right. Yeah, I would. It's the same kind of thing I would put into play with the shrimp breeding. You know, it's like anything that kind of falls in line with something that would be considered like food in nature, you know, like a feeder type thing, whether it's like shrimp or guppies or something, that's normally the throws you get from breeding is like, you know, 50% was kind of what you wanted, and then there'll be the 25% of like, huh? Wait, what? And then the next generation will be more of what you were looking for on the initial.
And sometimes
around,
it's that stuff that doesn't look anything like what you want it to look like that's going to actually produce what you need. And that's really apparent in my opinion when it comes to like Lyretail gene in swordtails and hyphen gene. Anything where that gonopodium gets longer, usually you have to breed like a standard male, so it doesn't have the extended gonopodium, with a female that's carrying the genes. So the male's carrying the genes but not expressing the genes.
Right.
So that means it doesn't look like it. So it doesn't have this gonopodium that's way too long and it can't breed. It's got normal size gonopodium. It can fertilize the female, and then what comes out of that female might be, if you're lucky, 50-50. You know, or you can work with it and skew it more and more and more, but you also get a little bit more inbreeding going on, and you might go, yeah, we're up to 60%, but the body size is not as big now. I'd rather take 50% in bigger bodies than 60 in smaller bodies. And so that kind of work, though, it takes like 7 or 8 years. It's not somebody like, oh yeah, I started here and I'll be there next week. You know, it's like, oh geez, that's really a dedication. And that's why a lot of things do get names. Like, oh, that's a Stan Schubel guppy. Oh, that's a blah, blah, blah. You know, oh, they developed this gene. They developed that gene. So,
yeah.
$2 super chat, £2 from Connor Bishop. Do you have any of the heritage strains from the 70s? I don't have any left. I went through a phase where I had like the Vienna Lyretails. I had, oh God, what is it? Like, there was a green one.
There's a guy out on the peninsula that specifically does the Lyretails guppies.
Yeah. I used to have all, well, I won't say all. I used to have quite the collection because at that point they hadn't come out with like Dumbo-eared. They hadn't come out with koi guppies. They basically, I'd hit the end of the internet where I'm like, well, I've owned most things I think are cool. Let me go back and get the retro versions.
Right.
And that was kind of cool, and a couple other guys were doing it, and we were getting them brought over from Europe, basically, because they really weren't over here. And the person that was kind of, I don't want to say leading the charge, but definitely helping with that was Philip Shattuck.
Okay.
He was a guy that some people say, oh, man, that guy's real shady. And some people go like, oh, he's just a guy that wrote a book, and, you know, whatever. You know, I don't really weigh in on that because I don't really know. But he definitely brought some attention because he was writing about the heirloom strains and that kind of stuff, and it kind of got me going, oh, I hadn't done that yet. And I kept them. The problem was I ended up with like, cool, I have 100 fish that no one else wants. So that was kind of a problem. We're creeping in on the last 13 minutes or so.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
no
is
worries.
that what you're looking at? Oh. So
I was trying to figure out why that Tupperware was going to fall over or not. Don't worry about it.
All right. I don't know what that means.
Non-issue.
But, all right. Non-issue. So, yeah, I've had them, but I don't really have a desire to get them back because, see, the water just turned on. Look at that tank change now.
Oh, yeah.
All of a sudden, they're trying to surf it. They're like, no, but I was just there. Dang it. And now all the tiger barbs are starting to school up. That's right. That's right. So, anyway.
Yep.
Did my thing with the heirloom strain. I'm not gonna say if I saw another one I hadn't had and it looks cool that I wouldn't keep it again, but I'm not tracking down. I used to just be collectoritis, and now I'm trying to downsize into like what are the ones I actually want to look at because I enjoy. So that's what I lead myself with now. If I don't walk into the fish room and go, ooh, I better check on X.
Yeah.
Might be a sign it needs to leave my fish room. If I'm not, if I got 50 tanks and I'm only really stoked about 3 of them, maybe I should just keep 3 tanks instead of 50, If I could walk back out of the room and go, I'm sure the Claroplecos are doing what they did last week, and that's making babies and doing their thing. That's a sign of, like, that's why they had to go. Like, I kept them, did my thing, bred them, cool, but that's not the first thing I go to look at anymore. And there's still so many fish left in the world that I can go look at, that I want to look at, that I need to be cycling through before I die.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting until you have too many L134s.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh. I see. That's going to be a while. They haven't bred for me yet at all.
I'm just waiting patiently. I'm an adult.
I think I got to get to like over 100 of them, because how cool would that
look?
A
I
tank
might have to
with,
wait
like,
a really long
when you
time.
just look and you're like, oh my god, is that just a wall?
I'll
of
just wait
leopard
till I
frogs?
can order some from the aquarium co-op.
Yeah, exactly. One day,
One day, one man, one mission. Fine, I'll just I'll go get the zebras since you have those in.
Yeah, we do. You can go buy zebras.
Not as cool.
Huh?
Not as cool.
Not as cool.
Yeah, I think they're cool.
134s, man.
I think the 134s.
Well, what am I
are
supposed to
cooler.
do? He wouldn't do it.
What am I supposed to do,
He
man?
says
I'm
you
trapped.
gotta wait till
I'm
I have
trapped.
100.
Oh, that's gonna be forever.
That's what I said.
It is. I can order some in. You can buy
I'm
them.
waiting on my guppies right now. You know
Yeah.
how long that's gonna be?
Yeah. Can you explain all the terms used to describe different strains of guppies? I don't think there's enough time in the day today to explain all of them.
There's no
There's
way
like
to do
literally
that.
a billion of them, and if I make 3 up on the spot, that would still be okay. Like there's literally
Yeah.
call it what you want. It
There's a shovel-tail, smallmouth,
bass,
blue-bottomed Japanese guppy. You're
yeah,
like,
galaxy, half moon.
yeah. Right.
You just
There
keep
are
adding
there are
traits.
some really helpful charts on a quick Google search that you can
Where have I
find.
put those? I feel like they're in my Guppy Talk. So I've got a Guppy Talk that's an hour long, and those charts are in there, and they show different tail shapes. Like so, even with dorsals, they're like, oh, that's a thumb dorsal, that's a high fin, that's
Right.
there's every fin almost has a different characteristic you could add to it. There is like, oh, that guppy is half black. Then there's AOC, all
Yeah.
of the colors. Then there's there's literally so many traits that your mind will bend trying. If I rattle them off, you're like, that didn't help. And so you almost got to see it in a visual representation. And so even like when you look at like, oh, what about Dumbo ear guppies? Well, yeah, but then there's ribbon fin, and then there's swallowtail. There's like literally all these little. Anytime anything is slightly different, it gets given a name,
Yeah.
and it's really down a rabbit hole that you
It's always
may or
this-
may not want to go down.
It's like the crazy street names of shrimp.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, this one's a purple haze.
It's a purple
You're like,
haze Galaxy Pinto Hulk Smash
Yeah, you're like, I don't-
2.0.
What is happening?
Oh, it's that one. Yeah.
Oh, got it. It's not
Yep.
3.0. Got
Yeah.
it.
No, I'm looking for 3.0s. You know that.
Of course.
I said in the post I was looking for 3.0s.
Fresh
Yeah.
caviar.
But every once in a while they throw a 3.0. You
Yeah.
know, like it's a Taiwan B Michelin.
This one's the caviar King Kong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah. So.
What's happening? What is happening
Words,
right now?
roads.
Roads.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it is. We can, if you had some things you want to talk about, we can definitely talk about it. But, like, that open-ended of a question,
That's just too much. That would just.
I would, to really do that justice, I would have to, like, lay it out and kind of like, okay, here's how I'm going to take this talk to go. Because
Right.
if we explain all the tail shapes, then we can start explaining dorsal shapes. Then we can start explaining pectoral fin shapes.
Right. I would say, I think, like we were talking about earlier with the fin shapes and stuff, and I didn't realize that you had a deal with the charts on it.
Uh-huh.
But you know those black and white charts that they have all the fin shapes and the names
Yeah.
on them. That's where I would start if I was
Yes.
somebody that's like, well, I kind of want to get into some guppies, but I'm not sure what kind. Those black outlines to give you an idea of what kind of fins shapes that you'd be looking for, and then you can use that as a reference word moving forward.
Yeah.
To maybe find like, oh, maybe I like the lower swordtail version. Like
Right,
that's the
'cause
one I
there's
like.
lower sword, higher sword,
So I'd be
leer tail,
looking for
plume tail.
So I'd be looking for that, and purple's my favorite color. So maybe I can find this purple variant of
Yeah,
that
it's like
fish.
attributes. You're
Yeah.
like, okay, I want spade tail, like snakeskin pattern, purple, Dumbo ear, and it'd be super cool if I could get it with the pectorals being ribbon fins, so they're extra long, with colorful females that have half moons instead of the spear tail. Like you could technically make all of that happen if someone put enough time. Like, yeah, that's 14 years down the road from today.
Yeah.
But, and that's where guppies keep coming from, is like, well, you know, I done seen one that looked cool, and then I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool if I had more of those or made it have this thing too?
I don't know, but that'd be cool if you did.
Yeah. And then some guy starts working on it, and then pretty soon, 1 out of a million comes out that way, and then pretty soon he's got 7 out of a million coming out of that way. Mm-hmm. And that's how we make new things. And right now, there just happens to be like I'm going to call it the Guppy Gold Rush, where in like Thailand and stuff, there's good money. Like, you make something new, you crank the crap out of it, and then you sell it off for an insane amount of money.
Right.
So like it's a Guppy Gold Rush, but we're not focusing on hardy. Like, so we listed all those traits, but then it used to be that we loved like, oh, it can withstand ick, doesn't have to be heated, thrives with gravel on the bottom, versus there's a lot of guppies that don't thrive with anything in the tank anymore. Like, they become very susceptible. You can also get, so let's say we had that purple snakeskin thumb dorsal with a spade tail, and it had the not swallow gene, but ribbon fin gene. You could also get it with the albino eye, or do you want a blue eye? You know, there's literally so many different things. Like, it took me a long time to find the red deltas I have, because they have the blue or black eye. I didn't want the albino eye. The albino eye is super common.
Yeah.
But in my experience, albino guppies have been weaker gened, just harder to take care of than non-albino guppies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You know, I don't know. You know, I don't know if that's a standardized thing, but definitely in my keeping, that held true pretty much for what I was doing. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
Are kink spines on guppies a genetic issue or damage as a fry? Both. Or either.
It could be either. Yeah.
It's like saying, like, when someone dies of liver failure, was it from alcoholism or because they had a bad liver? Well, it's like, could be either.
It could be either.
You know, we typically lump them in together of like, well, he drank, so it's liver or it's alcohol poisoning or alcohol damage over an amount of time. But it could also be he drank, but literally just had the genes that had a bad liver. That could also happen. So I would say make sure we keep good water quality, because that's just something we should do anyway. Make sure we've got calcium, hard water, all those types of things in the aquarium. And then, yeah, it could be that the fry got physically damaged during birth. So that can happen. Could get bit by a larger guppy as it's like dropping to the ground. So that could kink a back. Then it could also just be like the genes, literally it has a deformity where it's growing incorrectly. So that could be going on too. If it's happening in mass numbers, in my opinion, it usually comes down to how you're caring for the aquarium. And so what I mean by that is, whether it's water quality or you're not culling enough, it means enough attention isn't being put to that aquarium to prevent that from happening, I think. Yeah.
Oops, I'm chatting under your name.
Oh, that's all right. Shenanigans! And then just,
nobody knows what's happening.
yeah. So, yes, we are trying to get Joel his Christmas present, and that is to get to 200 patrons. We, as the Aquarium Co-op, have made it, but we want to get him to it, and I think we're fairly close, right? Are you under 10 to get there now?
Somebody was saying 9. Somebody said 4. I don't know. I can't really check it.
So, yeah, I mean, getting him a little bit of support. Basically, here's where it boils down. Like, I have an entire business that supports me talking about fish because I own Aquarium Co-op. This is going to shock you, but Joel does not own Aquarium Co-op. So he doesn't really kind of passively get paid to show up and do the show. Like, he does, kind of. Like, all the money and Real Fish Talk and stuff like that, like, let's say the ads generate, that kind of thing, will be split between us. Like, that, the goal is to support him. But right now, we don't have nearly that kind of income. Like, it's cool he wants to do it, but if he doesn't have a home,
it's kind of one of those things. Yeah, if I don't,
I need
have a
you
house,
to show up showered. So
yeah, I gotta wash my body.
Yeah,
I had to wash all the fiberglass out of my hair from yesterday. But you know, somebody was saying, they were like, it just happened a little while ago. They were like, well, what am I gonna pay your bills? It's like, it's not necessarily like
I would
paying
say
my bills,
yes.
but like, just as an example, it's essentially like I was gonna say $40, but it's more like $32 for me to drive up and back here.
Yeah.
Just because of like how much traffic and all that kind of stuff. If it was perfectly straight, it might be a little cheaper. But there's a lot of twists and turns, and people like roll their cars, and then they're like, "Oh man, there's traffic because the guy crashed." So driving back and forth, I have to fill up on gas. So it's just like
the reality is
that
someone
kind of
has
stuff.
to pay.
Yeah.
Here's how the world works.
And then of course caviar.
You're willing to
Caviar
pay.
dreams.
You're willing to pay X amount of time. So you're like, hanging out with Cory is fun. I'm willing to pay to do that once a month.
Right.
Right? You'd probably come hang out with me once a month. But twice a week, all of a sudden you're going, well, that I don't know. I don't know if I can afford $64 just in gas twice a week. Meanwhile, not going to work and all that. So that becomes, as a community resource, like we have to field that somehow. Like Aquarium Co-op, if we're being honest, Aquarium Co-op right now is footing quite a bit of bill to make this show happen, make things work. We're investing in the future with the hopes that in the future we'll invest in us. That's really what it comes down to. Like, let's leap forward here, put a bunch of money in the studio, make things happen, do all this kind of stuff, and then hope it becomes a viable thing so that we can keep it going. If it doesn't, it's like any business. Like, oh, we opened up a restaurant, turns out no one wanted to eat that food, you close down the restaurant. Like, you just go, oh, okay, well, yeah, we learned.
Yeah, drag.
It's the same thing we're doing right here. Like, oh, we're gonna launch this show. We're gonna try to make it as awesome as we can, and if it doesn't work, all right, yeah, we'll just have to do different things, but it will take someone putting some money out.
Yeah,
we're putting a lot of money out right now.
Yeah, so to
build the restaurant, so to speak.
The Aquarium Coop is essentially accepting the burden to build the studio. So I think if anybody was like, well, I don't know what Cory's doing, it's like, well, that's what it is right there. It's like, it's a lot of stuff that goes into it. And like you said, like opening a restaurant, it's like, you buy all these ovens and stuff, and the restaurant doesn't work. Yeah, you could resell them later, but that is certainly not an optimal thing. So, like, let's say, just as an example, you just bought a bunch of cameras.
Sure.
Like, yeah, you could sell them back later, but you'd still be at a loss. You're certainly not going to sell them for more than you bought them for.
And that's what we would do, but
stuff, so.
I think a lot of people have a little bit, like, I don't understand. You guys just talk, and we should pay you. And it's kind of like, yeah, but that's like telling, let's say, your wife, yeah, why should I buy the groceries if you're going to cook? It's like, well, it's the right thing to do. And then it'd be like saying, and then you understand, like, well, my wife opened a restaurant, and then people said, we don't want to pay you. You just cook for us for free. You're like, wait, that doesn't work. Yeah. Same thing. Like, so we're going to
You're just cooking, and I do cooking for fun.
Yeah. If we're going to put 20 grand into a studio, we then, when we open the doors and we're ready to cook you food, we're going to need you guys to buy a $7 cheeseburger. Like, that's just...
Yeah.
Or we go, oh, we just got to close it down. And I'm just trying to put it in a way that you guys understand. Not that I'm saying you guys don't understand, but there will be some people that, like, because we talked to them, like, I don't get it. Like, it doesn't really cost money.
It's the biggest thing that I always get.
Because it's free for you to show up.
It's one of those things that I get. It's the thing that I get constantly. It's the thing that's the one that I constantly get. I don't understand. This is, like, fun.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't understand. You guys are just having fun. And it's like, well...
all the
preparation and time and everything effort that we put into like putting this stuff together, and it's only going to get better and better and better.
Once a year, I'll help in the kitchen and I'll be like, that was fun.
Yeah,
cooking's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Every day though, I hate cooking.
Right.
It's the same thing. Even something that's fun can be something you hate, and you might go, oh, I really like. I'm trying to think of a job that people like, oh, I love running a fishing boat. I love to fish. Mm-hmm. But maybe in the middle of winter, while you're sick, for weeks on end, you don't enjoy being out on the fishing boat. Like, you do it because it's better than digging ditches,
Right.
Like, but if it was unlimited money for Cory, I'd be like, I would rather only go talk to fish clubs flown on a private jet with big audiences,
private helicopters,
and then they feed me well meat tacos.
Caviar dreams,
but we all make our choices in life, and it turns out that lucky enough today we get to talk to 415 of you guys on a brisk Tuesday morning.
415 viewers on the Real Fish Talk.
Yeah, I put out the bat signal.
Check that out.
So the bat signal, if you don't know what the bat signal is, you can go to the Aquarium Co-op page and allow notifications or sign up for a newsletter, either one. But eventually we'll only probably be doing the notifications, and we send you out a reminder like, hey, we're going live an hour before we go live, so that you can go, oh man, I better finish making my Chex Mix so I can sit down and enjoy the show.
That's right.
I assume most of you are making Chex Mix this morning.
Chex Mix, of course.
I wish my wife was. She was at work.
I don't know. They all have their own special thing, but what about Crispix?
What?
Crispix, bro.
Isn't that a cereal?
Yeah.
But that's not...
But the Chex. You could do the Chex Mix, but with Crispix instead.
No one does abs in 6 minutes.
I'm changing the game, bro. You don't even understand.
Yeah. So, anyway, sign up for the bat signal. We can summon our army. I want to build this bat signal thing. I want it to be like 7 billion people and then deploy it against something. I don't know what yet. Like, I want to like blow up a live stream where it's like, this guy has 7 subscribers, and then magically he's like 3,000 people watching. Like, what? What is going on?
What is happening?
Yeah. I just think stuff like that would be fun to do and play with. And so, yeah, we're going to build this little thing. You know, we're up to 415. Hey, that ain't bad. I'm going to say that right now.
That's awesome.
And all I can make the promise to you guys is I'm going to build... No. Because it definitely takes Joel here. He has got all the skills that I need. I'm going to put a ridiculous amount of money behind a studio, and he's going to put a ridiculous amount of skills behind it. And if it's not the coolest fish studio you've ever seen, we have failed. But I'm really thinking it's going to be pretty cool. Today we're tearing down a wall. That's how invested we are into this. Like, it's not just like, oh yeah, you know, I'll put a curtain up and we'll film.
Yeah.
Literally walls getting torn down. We're going to break this mother down. And then we're going to build it back up to something mind-blowingly awesome. I've already started getting confirmations of some of the guests we're going to have. You know, and I'm not going to say, you know, Jay-Z is going to be on the show, but maybe Jay-Z will make the show some year. But we do have, in my opinion, in the fish realm, very high-caliber guests lined up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now it's one thing, they actually got to show up. Like, it's one thing to say, like, yes, I'm super interested, and I want to be a part of that. That's super cool. But they actually got to show up too. You know, that's the thing. So I don't want to say their name, because then you're like, well, when's blah blah coming on? You know, like, oh, wouldn't it make sense in their schedule and that type of thing, and you know, stuff like that. So thanks for coming out, guys. Let us know if you like the 2 hour versus the 1 hour. This is a longer episode.
Yeah.
We're playing around with some stuff. We're gonna grab lunch, or send Jimmy to grab lunch, because I think we're just gonna start tearing down a wall.
We need snacks, bro.
We need snacks so that we can tear
Power
down
up.
a wall. The goal is tear down a wall and get some stuff done. And we'll be back in 4 hours on the Corvus Oskin channel. Meet us there. We'll do another hour, and then we'll work on rebuilding a wall.
Right.
And I have to cough, so I'm going to end this, because
All
I'm
right,
actually
guys.
kind of dying. Trying not to cough. So we'll see you guys
Later, everybody. See you at 4
And,
o'clock.
We'll see you Friday, by the way. We got
And
another Real
Friday.
Fish Talk coming at you on Friday.
Yeah, and let us know if you like the 2 hour show.
Yeah,
Come
let
on.
us know.
Come on now.
Longer, shorter.
Come on.
Longer, shorter. Longer, shorter.